Chapter 616. Zhao Wan was the empress. Even if she wasn't valued by the emperor, she shouldn't be eating so poorly. The palace maids and eunuchs were probably eating better than her. Hence, Wang Zhong was very surprised. Your Majesty, I don't have a big appetite. This is enough. Zhao Wan was flattered. Nonsense. You're the empress. How can you eat such unnutritious food? What if your body gets sick? Zhao Wan didn't know what nutrition was. But when she heard that the emperor was speaking up for her, she became even more excited. Great companion. I'm here. What's wrong with the imperial kitchen? Why don't they give the empress good food? Your Majesty, please forgive me. I don't know anything about the imperial harem, He Taigao said fearfully. Your Majesty, this has nothing to do with eunuch He. There's no need to vent your anger on her. Wang Zhong nodded. He understood that it was probably because of the original owner. Forget it. Tell the imperial kitchen to prepare a few more dishes. I want to drink with the empress. He Taigao was truly happy for Zhao Wan. He quickly bowed and said, I'll do it right away. After He Taigao left, Zhao Wan's eyes turned red. Tears were about to fall. Why did the empress suddenly cry? Did I do something wrong? Please tell me, Your Majesty. Wang Zhong held Zhao Wan's delicate hand and said. Zhao Wan shook her head and said with her head lowered, I'm not angry. It's just that Your Majesty is suddenly so concerned about me. I'm happy and touched. Wang Zhong nodded. It was time for him to whisper to Zhao Wan. Hence he said to Ning, you can leave first. Ning quickly left. Wang Zhong then said, Empress, I was ignorant in the past and neglected you. I won't do it again. Your Majesty. When Zhao Wan heard Wang Zhong's words, her original resentment instantly disappeared. Wang Zhong took the opportunity to pull her into his embrace and said, Tonight, drink a few cups with me. Then, I'll talk to you about some important matters. Zhao Wan's oval face slightly lifted. She asked in surprise, Your Majesty, what important matters do you want to talk about? State matters. Your Majesty, according to the laws of the Great Yin Dynasty, the members of the imperial harem are not allowed to interfere in politics. Rules are dead, but people are alive. Keep it a secret. Only the two of us will know. Seeing Wang Zhong's serious expression, Zhao Wan knew that Wang Zhong was telling the truth. Soon, the dishes were served and 2 pots of wine were brought in. The purity of the wine here was not high. After the meal was prepared, Zhao Wan sensibly poured some wine for Wang Zhong. This is the first time Your Majesty is drinking with this concubine. This concubine is really happy. Hehe, I will come often in the future. Wang Zhong smiled, looked around and said, It's just that the place where the empress lives is too simple and crude. I promise you that when I'm done with the matters at hand, I'll let you move to a bigger house. This concubine is already very happy to be able to serve Your Majesty. This concubine doesn't dare to have too much hope. Wang Zhong nodded in satisfaction. Zhao Wan was not putting on an act. In his memory, Zhao Wan was a very simple woman. Not only did she ask her subordinates to live frugally, but she also lived frugally. Unfortunately, the members of the imperial family were used to living a good life. They did not know the hardships of the commoners outside. There were very few women as outstanding as Zhao Wan. It was very late at night. Although Wang Zhong could hold his liquor, he was slightly drunk at this moment. Zhao Wan was even more so. Her face was completely red. Empress, it's getting late. Let's rest. Zhao Wan naturally knew what Wang Zhong meant by rest. For a moment she felt a little shy. Then the two of them entered the inner room. Zhao Wan's room was as simple as the outside. There was no other furniture apart from a large bed. However, the room was very clean. There were some calligraphy and paintings hanging on the wall. It was obvious that Zhao Wan liked these calligraphy and paintings. Wang Zhong hugged Zhao Wan and hugged her. Zhao Wan felt very fulfilled that night. On the second day, Wang Zhong slept all the way until noon before waking up. As an emperor, he had to go to court at 5 or 6 in the morning. Therefore, although the emperor was very powerful, his work was very tiring. Unless he was a fatuous emperor, he did not care about anything else. Wang Zhong was a fatuous emperor. Naturally, he would not go to court. Moreover, it would be useless even if he went. Right now none of the officials cared about him. Even if he went to court, they would flatter him, saying things like the world was peaceful and the commoners were happy. Empress, you're awake. Wang Zhong caressed her smooth skin and asked. Your Majesty, I'm guilty. Zhao Wan blamed herself. Nonsense, how are you guilty? I asked you to stay here and not go to court. Wang Zhong smiled. So that's what you're talking about. It's not your fault. I purposely didn't go. After all, I wouldn't be able to chat with those officials. What do you mean, Your Majesty? After that, Wang Zhong began to talk about some matters in the imperial court. From Wang Zhong's words, Zhao Wan knew that Wang Zhong was no longer a fatuous emperor. He wanted to govern the court. That's why I came here last night. I know that only you can help me. Zhao Wan was very smart. Although she had lived in the palace for a long time, she had heard about the outside world. In the past, she was not favored, and could not tell Luo Zhao her thoughts. But now, she felt that the time was right. Your Majesty, I will do my best to help you conquer the world. Yes, I checked the National Treasury yesterday. The National Treasury only has 300,000 taels of silver left. The National Treasury is so tight, but Imperial Mother is still so extravagant. I've decided to start with Imperial Mother and reform the Imperial Harem. Zhao Wan was very shocked by Wang Zhong's plan. Leave this to me. When the time comes, I will let you take control of the Imperial Harem. I hope you won't disappoint me. I will do my best. Zhao Wan did not care about her naked body, and quickly got off the bed to kneel on the ground. The weather is cold. Get up and talk. Looking at the naked Zhao Wan, Wang Zhong pulled her up and did it again. Zhao Wan's face was filled with satisfaction. After finishing, Wang Zhong went to the main hall. Great companion between you and Ndeli, who is better at martial arts. Once they entered the main hall, Wang Zhong asked He Taigao who was beside him. If he wanted to make the Empress Dowager lose her power, he had to get rid of her eyes and ears. This Ndeli was the key. Ndeli controlled the 12 imperial supervisors. If he died, he could rightfully arrange for someone else to take over. This old servant and Ndeli are not on good terms. We have fought before. It's about 50-50. Wang Zhong nodded slightly. He did not want to wait any longer. This Ndeli had to be dealt with as soon as possible. If he could not even manage a small imperial harem, how could he govern the country in the future? This Ndeli's strength was not bad. He only trusted He Taigao. Great companion, 50-50 is enough. Go and prepare the poison wine. I want to kill Ndeli today. This servant, Ndeli, greets the emperor. May the emperor live for 10,000 years. Ndeli was a few years older than He Taigao. Since he was young, Ndeli served the Empress Dowager. Therefore, he became the Empress Dowager's most trusted eunuch. You may rise. Wang Zhong smiled. Thank you, Your Majesty. Ndeli stood up and bowed. He asked, Your Majesty, why did you ask this servant to come here? Ndeli, I went to the Empress's place last night. I heard that your people in the 12 imperial supervisors bullied the Empress. Is this true? Although Ndeli was the Empress Dowager's man, he had to act on the surface. He quickly lowered his head. Your Majesty, the Empress usually lives in seclusion. The people in the 12 imperial supervisors have never come into contact with the Empress. How could they bully her? Your Majesty, please understand. That's strange. Could it be that the Empress lied to me? Ndeli quickly said. This old servant has followed the Empress Dowager for many years and often taught me etiquette. Bullying the Empress is a capital offense. This old servant does not dare. Then is it one of your men? This old servant will go back and investigate. Very good. You must investigate this matter carefully, eunuch He. This old servant is here. He Taigao walked out. Eunuch has worked hard and performed a great service. I hereby give you a cup of wine. Yes. He Taigao took out the poisonous wine that he had prepared. Seeing this cup of wine, Ndeli frowned. Giving him wine for no reason. There must be something strange about this. Ndeli could not help but tremble. He could not help but look at Wang Zhong. At this moment, Wang Zhong had already arrived in front of him. Eunuch, why are you still not thanking him? He Taigao stood on the other side with the wine in his hand. Your Majesty, this old servant is already old and cannot handle alcohol. Andeli knew that his words were very disrespectful. But compared to drinking poisonous wine, he did not care if he was disrespectful. After all, he had the Empress Dowager to support him. Eunuchin, I sympathized with you and gave you good wine. You actually rejected me. Are you not putting me in your eyes? This old servant does not dare. I am really worried that after drinking the wine, this old servant will not be able to do anything for your Majesty. If that happens, this old servant will have sinned. Andeli explained with a cold face. All right then, I will not make things difficult for you. Andeli breathed a sigh of relief. But suddenly, he felt a sharp pain on the right side of his abdomen. Then he was shocked to find that the emperor was holding a dagger in his hand. This dagger had already pierced his chest. Immediately, Andeli's eyes widened. Andeli, I gave you good wine out of goodwill, but you refused to drink it. Since you are so disobedient, what is the point of keeping you? Since your Majesty treats this old servant like this, don't blame this old servant for being ruthless. Andeli clenched his teeth and sent a palm strike toward Wang Zhong. But He Taigao was already prepared. He was one step ahead and sent a palm strike toward Andeli's chest. Bang! Andeli was caught off guard and was sent flying. First, his abdomen was injured. Now he was sent flying by He Taigao's full force strike. The blood and qi in Andeli's body instantly became chaotic. Even his breathing became unstable. Dog, how dare you be disrespectful to your Majesty? I will kill you for your Majesty. He Taigao attacked like the wind. At this moment, Andeli was completely powerless to fight back. He barely managed to take a few blows before falling to the ground. Taking advantage of this opportunity, He Taigao suddenly stepped forward and broke Andeli's neck. Andeli was dead. Your Majesty, are you all right? After dealing with Andeli, He Taigao lowered his head and asked. I am fine. That's what you said to others. Andeli is already old. He accidentally tripped on the road and fell to his death. Chapter 6:17. Your Majesty, won't this arouse suspicion? He Taigao asked worriedly. It will definitely arouse suspicion, but it's fine. From now on, you will be in charge of the 12 inner prisons. You must also find a few trustworthy martial arts experts. I have great use for them. This old servant obeys. He Taigao was naturally excited when he heard that he would be in charge of the 12 inner prisons. But soon he said worriedly, Your Majesty, although Andeli is dead, he still has many trusted subordinates in the 12 inner prisons. This old servant is worried that they will not be obedient. Great companion, you are not young anymore. Do you still need me to teach you how to deal with disobedient people? Just do whatever you want. Those who are disobedient will all be executed before the Empress Dowager knows. As you wish. Wang Zhong walked over and said, Listen, you and I have already started. If we fail, I may not die, but you will die. He Taigao instantly understood and hurriedly replied, This old servant will do my best and be loyal to the Emperor as a dog servant to share the Emperor's worries. Good, prepare the men. We will go to the 12 inner prisons together. Wang Zhong was also worried that it would be difficult to deal with He Taigao alone, so he went personally. He Taigao had been in the palace for a long time. Although his influence was not great, it was not that he did not have his own trusted subordinates. Soon he gathered more than 10 eunuchs. With these eunuchs, Wang Zhong brought his guards and went to the 12 inner prisons. After hearing Wang Zhong say that Andeli fell to his death while walking, the rest of the 12 inner prisons were stunned. Although Andeli was old, he was also a martial artist. How could he fall to his death while walking? There must be something fishy about this matter. I will definitely investigate the matter of Andeli and give him justice. But the 12 inner prisons cannot be without a leader. Eunuch, he has been with me for many years. He is definitely qualified to take over Andeli's important position. I believe that Andeli will be happy in the underworld if he knows about it. He Taigao's eyelids twitched when he heard this. He found that the emperor had changed a lot. He could actually say such nonsense without even blinking his eyes. However, this was great news for him. He was originally worried that the emperor's ability was not high enough. He couldn't help but recall the scene where Wang Zhong suddenly attacked Andrew. Originally, when he saw that Ndeli didn't drink the poisoned wine, he was a little worried that he would be exposed. He didn't expect that the emperor would suddenly make a move. It can be seen that the emperor grasped the timing very well. First, he promised Ndeli not to drink the poisoned wine. Then, he took advantage of the moment when Ndeli was relaxed to make a move. It was as if the emperor knew martial arts. Because Wang Zhong had come in person, even if some of the people below were dissatisfied, they couldn't say anything for a while. Several of the Empress Dowager's trusted aides secretly decided to go back and complain to the Empress Dowager. Unfortunately, they were too late. As soon as Wang Zhong left, Grand Empress Dowager, he gaily used the excuse of checking the accounts to put all Ndeli's cronies in prison. When Empress Dowager Lu Huan found out about this in the evening, it was already too late. Someone, let His Majesty see this consort. After knowing that Ndeli was dead, and that He Taigao was in charge of the 12 imperial eunuchs, Lu Huan was furious and sent for Wang Zhong. At the same time, she decided to have the civil and military officials make things difficult for Wang Zhong the next morning. As the Empress Dowager, she had some allies in the court. However, before the palace maid could go out, she heard the scream of a palace maid and died at the door. There's a plague in the Phoenix Palace. No one is allowed to enter or leave. Those who disobey will be killed without mercy. He Taigao's sharp voice came. A group of guards from the 12 imperial eunuchs surrounded the place. Eunuch He, I think you're courting death. How could Lu Huan not know that Wang Zhong was going to put her under house arrest? Empress Dowager, I'm sorry. In order to prevent the plague from spreading, I can only do this. He Taigao said with a fake smile. He had already taken this step, and could not retreat. If he retreated, he would die. I'll see who dares to stop me. Little stool, little table, follow me out. Yes, Your Majesty. Little stool and little table were the inner court experts who followed Lu Huan. Although they were little eunuchs, their martial arts were excellent. However, before they stepped out of the door, 5 people with bows and arrows suddenly appeared behind He Taigao. With a few whooshing sounds, little stool and little table were killed on the spot. Ah! The group of palace maids and eunuchs screamed. Even Lu Huan was shocked and retreated. Rebel, you're rebelling. Empress Dowager, forgive this servant for being rude. It's just that the emperor's order is difficult, and I have no other choice. After He Taigao finished speaking, he turned his head and ordered, surround the place. No one is allowed to enter or leave. Scum! A group of inner court experts surrounded the Phoenix Palace. The harem could be said to be very big, but it could also be said to be very small. Once the matter of the Phoenix Palace came out, almost the entire harem knew. Everyone was puzzled. Did a plague really appear in the Phoenix Palace? Just as the group of concubines were puzzled, the emperor issued a decree for the harem concubines to go to the main hall to discuss the plague. Could it be that a plague really appeared in the harem? The concubines were all very curious. Because the original Luo Zhao had not been the emperor for long, he did not have time to marry many concubines. Now, other than concubine Li, who was sentenced to death, there were 8 concubines left. The Empress Zhao Wan had already arrived, and was sitting next to Wang Zhong. Empress, Zhen wants to take care of the harem, but Zhen cannot keep an eye on it all the time. I'll leave it to you in the future. Before she arrived, Wang Zhong had already given Zhao Wan a heads up. Zhao Wan also knew that the Empress Dowager had been placed under house arrest today. For a moment, she was shocked by Wang Zhong's decisiveness. At the same time, she understood that there was no turning back now. Once the Empress Dowager regained power, she and Wang Zhong would be in great trouble. Although the emperor was the Empress Dowager's son, in order to seize power, the Empress Dowager had killed her son countless times. They had to be on guard. This concubine understands. Zhao Wan forcefully nodded, and her face regained its dignity. After the concubines received the news that they were going to the main hall, they did not dare delay, and entered the main hall one by one. This concubine greets the emperor. This concubine greets the emperor. Wang Zhong waved his hand. No need for formalities. Come, give me a seat. Looking at the concubines sitting in front of him, Wang Zhong couldn't help but sigh at the benefits of being the emperor. These concubines all had their own characteristics. Some were curvy in the front and back, some had fair complexions, and some were short and chubby and abnormally cute. But most of them had one thing in common, and that was that they were short. As expected, the people of this dynasty all liked short people. Only Empress Zhao Luan stood out among this group of girls. She was very tall. Beloved concubines, I believe you all know about today's matter. 2 palace maids in the Feng Palace suddenly fell ill. After investigation, they were most likely infected with smallpox. In order to prevent the plague from spreading, Zhen immediately sealed the Feng Palace. My poor Empress mother is kind and benevolent. In order to not infect others, she willingly shut herself in and did not come out. This truly makes Zhen feel guilty. This was the excuse that Wang Zhong had thought of long ago. Hearing this, the concubines were stunned. Although the concubines in front of him were all his wives, it was hard to know what was in a person's heart. In the depths of the palace, who knew if the person sleeping next to you was truly devoted to you? Beloved concubines, is there anything strange around you or on your body? If there is anything strange, you must immediately inform the imperial physician. Wang Zhong said solemnly. Qinxia has been staying in the room recently, and has not gone out. Qinxia and the palace maids around me are fine. One by one, the concubines hurriedly expressed that they were not sick. And that's good. Wang Zhong deliberately paused for a moment and said emotionally, my poor Empress mother doesn't know what to do. AI. Emperor, the Empress Dowager is a good person. She will be fine. An emperor does not need to worry. Be careful not to harm your body. Wang Zhong deliberately smiled and said, hearing the words of my beloved concubines, Zhen is much more relieved. Since that is the case, in order to not let the Empress Dowager worry, Zhen will talk about what to do next in the harem. The harem cannot be without a master for a day. Now that the Empress Dowager is unable to come out, Zhen has decided that the Empress will manage the harem. If something happened to the Empress Dowager, the harem would naturally be managed by the Empress. No one could say anything about this. But what surprised everyone was that a concubine named Concubine Chen suddenly stood up and said, Emperor, Qinxia feels that something is wrong. Oh, what's wrong? Wang Zhong's eyes flashed. Sure enough, the harem was not peaceful. The Empress Dowager had been placed under house arrest, but there were still people who opposed his decision. In his memory, this concubine Chen was the same as Concubine Li. She was also a woman chosen by the Empress Dowager. Her family seemed to be the assistant minister of the Ministry of Rights. When she was chosen, the Empress Dowager said that this concubine Chen was proficient in the 4 arts. She was a virtuous woman. But from what Wang Zhong saw, it was simply a joke. Perhaps the Empress Dowager had chosen this woman for the sake of controlling the emperor. Concubine Chen replied, the harem has always been managed by the Empress Dowager. Although the Empress Dowager is capable, she has never done it before. Qinxia is a little worried. Is that so? Then what does beloved concubine suggest? Wang Zhong lightly asked. Qinxia thinks that us sisters should manage the harem together. As for the Empress Dowager, we should invite a famous doctor to treat her. We hope that the Empress Dowager can recover soon. Concubine Chen was quite bold. She relied on the fact that the emperor did not like the empress in the past. In addition, she was a concubine who was close to the Empress Dowager. She believed that the emperor would consider her words carefully. But she was wrong. Wang Zhong looked at Concubine Chen and said, Concubine Chen, we suddenly remembered something. Normally, Concubine Li and you have a good relationship, right? When Concubine Li asked us to grant her death, she told me something about you. You cursed us behind our backs, and said that we were an incapable ruler, not worthy of being the emperor. Wang Zhong was simply framing her. Who told this concubine Chen to be disobedient? Right now, what Wang Zhong wanted was absolute obedience from his subordinates. Only then could he make bold reforms. This concubine Chen had bumped into him. As for this crime, Concubine Li was already dead. He had the final say. Your Majesty, I've been wronged. Qinxia has always been loyal to your Majesty and never said such things. Concubine Chen's expression changed and she quickly kneeled. At this moment, she was a little dazed. She did not understand why the emperor would suddenly accuse her of such a crime. If concubine Li had really said such a thing, the emperor would have already caused trouble for her. Most importantly, she had never said such a thing. While concubine Chen was in a daze, the other concubines had a tacit understanding. What bullshit plague! The emperor wanted to punish the Empress Dowager. Whoever spoke up for the Empress Dowager would be punished by the emperor. It was a pity that concubine Chen could not understand. Chapter 6:18. Your Majesty, please understand. This concubine never said. Consort Li said it herself. How could it be false? Your Highness. This old servant is here. He Taigao immediately stepped forward. Consort Chen is arrogant and rude. She has no respect for her superiors and is suspicious of others. She has disrupted the harem. Starting today, she will be demoted to a commoner and banished to the cold palace. She will no longer be treated as a concubine. Consort Chen's expression changed. She didn't think that a few words from her would cause her to fall from heaven to hell. This was what it meant to be blind. The other concubines all trembled. With Consort Chen's example as an example, none of them dared to say another word. Your Majesty, this concubine knows her wrongs. Please don't banish me to the cold palace. Your Majesty. The cold palace was the most remote place in the harem. Not only was the treatment poor, but more importantly, entering that place was no different from being imprisoned. In the future, she wouldn't even be able to see the emperor, let alone give birth to a son. It could be said that she would live a miserable life without seeing the light of day. We don't want to see her again. Servants, take Consort Chen away. Your Majesty, please spare this concubine. Consort Chen cried loudly. Unfortunately, at this critical moment, Wang Zhong wouldn't pay attention to her. Consort Chen's voice gradually faded away. At this moment, the hall was completely silent. No one dared to speak because the concubines were afraid that they would say the wrong thing and end up like Consort Chen. Do any of my beloved concubines have any objections to our decision? Wang Zhong asked coldly. This concubine feels that it's very appropriate. Your Majesty is wise. Wang Zhong nodded in satisfaction at the concubine's attitudes. He thought to himself that the ancient people's brains really didn't know how to change. If this were a modern-day situation, how could there be someone like Consort Chen? After dismissing the concubines, Wang Zhong began to instruct Zhao Wan on what to do next. First, they had to cut costs. There wasn't much money left in the national treasury. It wasn't worth it to continue wearing gold and silver for the sake of the concubines. Fortunately, Zhao Wan was a thrifty person. With her in charge, Wang Zhong felt reassured. After giving his instructions, Wang Zhong waved his hand and ordered Zhao Wan to investigate the accounts of the harem and take control of it as quickly as possible. Naturally, the matter of the imperial harem could not be concealed. Soon, all the civil and military officials knew that Wang Zhong had put Empress Dowager Lu Huan under house arrest. Sure enough, early the next morning, Wang Zhong didn't go to the morning court, but he heard from the eunuch that all the civil and military officials had come to request an audience with the emperor. Empress Dowager Lu Huan also had allies in the imperial court. This point could be referred to Lu Ji, and even the famous Empress Dowager like Xi Shi. Without any allies in the imperial court, he would not be able to live long if he continued to be so arrogant. Lu Huan's ally was Wang Zhong's uncle Lu Zhongpa. This Lu Zhongbo relied on Lu Huan to walk through the bureaucracy, like it was flat ground. In just a few short decades, he became the prime minister of the current dynasty, and was ordered to assist in the government. It was a pity that there wasn't much assistance, and there were a lot of corruption. Lu Huan was also a woman. She sat and watched her younger brother take bribes and bend the law. This was called being uncultured. The reason why many ancient dynasties were destroyed was actually because they were uncultured. If they followed the philosophy of modern management, and didn't appoint people based on favoritism, and put national interests first, how could they be destroyed? Emperor, this Lu Zhongpa has many henchmen in the imperial court. After hearing about the Empress Dowager, he led the civil and military officials to make trouble. I'm afraid there will be some trouble in today's morning court. In the back garden, He Taigao said worriedly. Great companion, there is no need to worry. Today I will meet this uncle. After a while, Wang Zhong went to the throne room. The emperor has arrived. This was the first time Wang Zhong attended the morning court as the emperor. In the past, when he was in the Great Dragon Dynasty, he was always by the emperor's side as a eunuch. For a moment he felt a little emotional. After a moment of fluctuation in his heart, Wang Zhong calmly sat on the dragon throne. Long live His Majesty! Although the civil and military officials secretly thought that the emperor was an idiot and raised him like a pig, they did a good job on the surface and knelt down in unison. Everyone rise. Wang Zhong yawned as if he hadn't woken up yet. When the civil and military officials saw this, they were even more certain that Wang Zhong had no interest in the imperial court. This made them feel a lot more relieved. At this time, He Taigao stepped forward and shouted, "There is a memorial. If there is nothing else, the court is dismissed." In the next moment, Lu Zhongpa stepped forward. This humble subject, Lu Zhongpa, reports to the emperor that I heard that the Empress Dowager's body was unwell. This humble subject is the Empress Dowager's younger brother, and is very worried. This humble subject begs the emperor to let the famous doctor ask about the Empress Dowager's illness. Wang Zhong knew that Lu Zhongpa would step forward. There were many factions in the imperial court, but Lu Zhongpa's faction was the strongest. Although his mother was Lu Zhongpa's elder sister, sometimes for the sake of money, Lu Zhongpa didn't care if his nephew could sit on the throne. The foresight of the ancients was very low. For example, during the time of Damo country, when the country was about to be destroyed, the emperor mobilized the civil and military officials to raise money. In order to make the officials follow the trend and donate, the emperor had the empress secretly give the empress's father about 8 million taels, the exact amount was forgotten, to let the father-in-law take the lead in donating. Unexpectedly, the father-in-law deducted 3 million taels, and only donated 5 million taels. In the end, when the army came, the father-in-law's family and the civil and military officials were all confiscated. The women were reduced to playthings of the enemy. When he saw this part of history, Wang Zhong couldn't help but sigh at how low the foresight of the ancients was, especially the most important point. Since the country was about to be destroyed, what was the point of keeping the civil and military officials? Wouldn't it be better for the emperor to just send troops to confiscate the property? According to Wang Zhong's understanding, the emperor valued his reputation and didn't want to leave behind a bad reputation. But the country was about to be destroyed. To still care about this, it was really Lu Zhongpa's thinking. Imperial uncle, Zhen's imperial mother is sick. Zhen's mood is heavier than yours, but it is a plague. For servants have already died. What if the disease spreads and the entire imperial family dies? Emperor, the doctor this humble subject has invited is very skilled. There will definitely be no problem. Then, alright, since imperial uncle is so concerned about imperial mother, Zhen will do as you say. But the Phoenix Palace is stable for now. Zhen doesn't want to complicate things. I want to wait until imperial mother calms down, and send someone over. Wang Zhong was using a delaying tactic. Lu Zhongpa frowned. Wasn't this clearly not letting anyone in? Just as he was about to continue speaking, Wang Zhong waved his hand and said, "Alright, Zhen's concubine's health hasn't been very good recently. Zhen wants to go over and visit. That's all, court is dismissed." After saying this, Wang Zhong directly left, leaving behind a group of officials looking at each other in dismay. Prime Minister Lu, His Majesty is too willful. Why doesn't he care about the Empress Dowager, and instead cares about the concubine? Quiet down. A group of people gathered around Lu Zhongpa, all of them lamenting Wang Zhong's incompetence. Lu Zhongpa frowned. He was actually quite curious. Originally, after finding out that Lu Huan was under house arrest, he guessed that the emperor suddenly wanted to investigate something, so he came to court this morning to find out what was going on. But from the looks of it, he was still reluctant to leave the harem. Could it be that Lu Huan really was sick? Everyone, please return first. This old man will do his best to persuade His Majesty. Lu Zhongpa was also complaining about Wang Zhong's sudden departure. It should be known that when he forced Luo Zhao, He led the civil and military officials to force Luo Zhao to submit. Now that he had left, there was no point in staying any longer. After returning to Zhao Wan's residence, Wang Zhong told her about what happened in the imperial court. He could not help but curse. That Lu Zhongpa, to think that he's my uncle. He colluded with the civil and military officials to mess with me. If he doesn't fall, Great Yan's empire won't be safe. Su, be careful, Your Majesty. The walls have ears. If word gets out, Lu Zhongpa might rebel, Zhao Wan hastily reminded him. Currently, the civil and military officials had no intention of rebelling. Everyone just wanted to earn money. However, if they knew that the emperor wanted to investigate them, none of them would surrender without putting up a fight. It would be troublesome if the emperor gave them time to prepare. MHM, I understand. Aren't you the only one here, Your Majesty? I trust you. Zhao Wan's heart warmed. I'm really happy to be able to gain Your Majesty's trust. It's almost noon. It's time for lunch. MHM, all right. Zhao Wan immediately ordered the servants to prepare lunch. However, at this moment, He Taigao entered with an official. This humble official, Shinan, greets Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. Wang Zhong had some impression of Shinan. He was the Minister of Justice and was in charge of all kinds of cases, especially those that involved the death penalty. All of them had to go through him. However, major cases involving officials had to be reviewed by Wang Zhong. You may rise, Minister Shun. May I know why you're looking for me at this time? Wang Zhong asked in a dignified manner. Your Majesty, someone reported that the Minister of Revenue Li Mingkai had embezzled money from the Ministry of Water Resources. According to the law, he will be executed at noon today. Please make the decision, Your Majesty. After Shunan finished speaking, he originally thought that Wang Zhong would wave his hand to indicate that he understood. After all, in the past he and Lu Zhongbua had colluded together to suppress dissidents. He had shown it to the emperor, but the emperor had never questioned him. However, Wang Zhong did not agree to it this time. In his memory, Li Mingkai was old, but he had great prestige. Before Lu Zhongpa, Li Mingkai was an important official in the imperial court. After Lu Zhongpa took over the throne, the two of them, one in the Lu faction, and the other in the Li faction, were not easy to deal with. In the past, the two of them often argued with each other in the imperial court. However, as Lu Zhongpa's influence grew, the people in the Li faction were almost all eliminated. Now, even Li Mingkai was imprisoned. Wang Zhong did not know if Li Mingkai had really broken the law, but there was one thing that he was sure of. If Li Mingkai had really been executed, then LV Zhongbua would be able to cover the sky with one hand in the imperial court. I've seen this. There are many questions in it. I still need to investigate it carefully. Shinan, immediately go to the execution ground and stop the execution. What? Shinan was stunned. If Li Mingkai was not executed, then the imperial court would be in trouble. More importantly, the emperor wanted to investigate it carefully. How could he allow that? However, it was not good for him to refute, so he could only brace himself and say, Your Majesty, Li Mingkai's crimes are serious. The evidence of corruption is conclusive. If we let him go, I'm afraid the people of the world will be disappointed. I don't need you to teach me what to do. Quickly go to the execution ground. If you're late, I'll hold you responsible. Shen An's eyelids twitched. Seeing that Wang Zhong was determined to save Li Mingkai, Shinan gritted his teeth and lowered his head. This official will do it immediately. Chapter 619. After Shinan left, Wang Zhong immediately called He Taigao. Great companion. I am worried about Shinan. Is Your Majesty worried about Lord Shen? Lord Shen and Imperial Uncle Lu Zhongbua are close, and Lu Zhongbua and Li Mingkai are not on good terms. I am worried that Lord Shen will pretend to comply but secretly oppose. At this point, Wang Zhong ordered. How about this? Quickly go to the execution grounds and save Li Mingkai. This is my imperial sword. This old servant will go immediately. He Taigao knew that this matter was of great importance and did not dare to delay. He quickly stood up. Great companion, you must save Li Mingkai. Bring more people with you. Wang Zhong was worried that Lu Dang, who was outside, would not listen to him. At that time, not only would he not be able to save Li Mingkai, but He Taigao would also die there. After He Taigao left, Wang Zhong rubbed his forehead. Now that the harem had been solved, the most important thing was to deal with Lu Dang. Next, he had to think of a way to earn money. Relying on taxes, the people below had swallowed too much. According to ancient historical records, in the later period of a dynasty, the amount of money that the officials embezzled was often more than the entire country combined. Therefore, Wang Zhong did not have any hope of collecting taxes. But it was definitely not possible to arrest so many officials at once. At that time, the world would be in chaos and he would die faster. So he decided to find another way to earn money. After becoming the emperor, he could not open a restaurant or a hospital in the past. Firstly, he would earn too little money. Secondly, he did not have the energy to do it. After thinking about it, Wang Zhong decided to open a clothing factory first. The people in ancient times did not have any entertainment activities. Family expenses were nothing more than clothes and food. The amount of food was fixed. He could only rely on the people to grow food. He could not rely on this to earn money in a short period of time. But clothes could. Now that the weather was turning cold and winter was coming, the people would need cotton-padded clothes to survive the winter. The clothes on the market were not cheap. Firstly, the raw materials were rare. Secondly, the efficiency in ancient times was low, and they did not know how to improve efficiency. What Wang Zhong wanted to do now was to manage the factory. He had already thought of the people. There were more than 3,000 people in the harem. Wasn't this free labor? Not only did they not need to be paid, but they also worked all year round. All they needed to do was to provide them with some food. They were even more useful than slaves. Among so many people, other than the concubines of the original owner, the concubines of the previous emperors, nobles, and even commoners with no status, there were many palace maids. Usually, these women had nothing to do other than fight in the palace, so they went to work in the clothing factory. What they needed now was raw materials and a workshop for the garment factory. Coincidentally, Zhao Wan came over with the dishes. "Empress, you came at the right time. We have something important to discuss with you." After being in this ancient world for so long, Zhao Wan was the one who shared the same thoughts as him. "What does your majesty want to say?" Wang Zhong explained his plan and said, "Now that we are in urgent need of money, establishing a clothing trade can solve our urgent needs." "All right then." Unexpectedly, Zhao Wan agreed. "Your majesty, you're right. There are a lot of people in the imperial harem. Since they have nothing to do, it's good to let them do something. It's still the empress who knows me best. Then it's settled. I will settle the matter of the raw materials in the next few days." To make clothes, one needed cloth and cotton. Back in the Great Dragon Dynasty, his first world as a eunuch, Wang Zhong had opened a garment factory after he had pacified the world. It could be said that he was proficient in this field. "Your Majesty, I have a way to deal with the raw materials. My hometown has a lot of cotton, and I know many cotton farmers. I can help your Majesty purchase them. As for the cloth, I also have someone in mind. The price will definitely be fair." "All right, then I'll have to trouble you, Empress." Although the ancient emperors did not allow their concubines and empresses to appear in public, Wang Zhong did not have this psychological barrier. After all, he had been a concubine's son-in-law before. What was there to be afraid of? However, before Zhao Wan left the palace, Wang Zhong still asked her to dress up and sent a few eunuchs to follow her. This time, Zhao Wan left the palace as the daughter of a merchant from a large family. Nobody knew about it. The people in the imperial harem all thought that Zhao Wan had been staying in her residence. On the other side, the Minister of Justice, Shunan, frowned after he left the palace. The emperor actually asked him to go to the execution ground to save Li Mingkai. Li Mingkai had great prestige in the imperial court. Even among the common people, he was very famous. In the past, Li Mingkai would criticize Lu Zhongbo from time to time. Even Shunan had been insulted by Li Mingkai. The people of Lu Zhongbo's faction had long regarded Li Mingkai as a mortal danger. They could not wait to kill him. Therefore, Shunan had a headache. He did not know what to do next. After all, the emperor had said that if he did not do a good job, he would be held accountable. But soon Shannon suddenly laughed. I'm really stupid. This place is still far from the execution ground. When the time comes, I'll slow down and delay him for a while. When the emperor questions me, I'll say that I didn't make it in time. At that time, Prime Minister Liu can put in a few good words for me. However, to be on the safe side, Shannon called a servant. Go to Prime Minister Liu's residence and tell him that the emperor wants to save Li Mingkai. Understand? Yes, Your Excellency. This servant will do it right away. Go. After watching the servant leave, Shannon leisurely rode his horse to the execution ground. Hiya, hiya, hiya. On He Taigao's side, in order to quickly complete Wang Zhong's orders, He Taigao galloped toward the execution ground with 6 court eunuchs. The imperial palace is handling matters. Get out of my way. Finally, He Taigao and his men arrived at the entrance of the execution ground. At this moment, the place was completely surrounded. Today was the day that Minister of Revenue, Li Mingkai, would be beheaded. Li Mingkai was no ordinary person. Compared to the corrupt Liu Zhongbua, the people preferred Li Mingkai as an official. Sigh. Lord Li was harmed by that treacherous official Liu Zhongbua. In the future, Liu Zhongbua will be able to cover the sky with one hand. Lord Li is so pitiful. He won't have an official to plead for the people in the future. All of you get out of my way. If you delay His Majesty's matters, you won't even be able to pay with your lives. A sharp voice was heard, and the people panicked and hurriedly moved aside. He Taigao felt that the crowd was too slow. With a cold snort, he leaped from his horse and stepped on the heads of several people to arrive at the center of the execution ground. Audacious! Who are you? How dare you trespass on the execution ground? The supervisor on the stage bellowed. He Taigao coldly said, His Majesty has ordered that there are doubts about Lord Li's case. Stop the execution. Hand Lord Li over to me, and bring him to the imperial palace to await his punishment. What? Someone sent by the emperor? Upon hearing this, the expressions of the officials on the stage changed. It wasn't that they were afraid of He Taigao, but that the execution of Li Mingkai had been personally ordered by Prime Minister Liu Zhongbua. In the current imperial court, Liu Zhongbua could cover the sky with one hand. Who dared to offend him? Just as the majority of the people were about to hand Li Mingkai over, a middle-aged man suddenly stood up. Begin the execution. This man's expression was cold. He didn't take He Taigao seriously at all. How audacious! You dare to go against His Majesty's orders? He Taigao pointed at the man and asked. His Majesty has also ordered us to arrest the guilty official Li Mingkai. Eunuch, it's not good to falsify an imperial decree. He Taigao knew this man. He was an official from the Ministry of Justice, and was very close to Liu Zhongbua. His Majesty is indeed wise. He knew that we would be in trouble. He Taigao snorted coldly and drew the imperial sword. Everyone, the imperial sword is here. Seeing this sword is like seeing His Majesty. Hurry up and kneel. The people on the stage clearly didn't expect He Taigao to take out such an item. Their expressions changed drastically. It seemed that the emperor was determined to save Li Mingkai. Your Majesty, long live the emperor. The ordinary people on the periphery knelt down one after another. The people on the stage had no choice but to kneel down. Men, untie Lord Li and escort him back to the palace. Yes. At this moment, Wang Zhong was wandering around the palace with a few palace maids. He was looking for a good place to set up a clothing factory. This place had to be large and open to all sides, so that it could be used to transport goods and materials. Apart from that, it would be best if there was a large empty space to use as a toilet. After all, there were so many people in the clothing factory. He couldn't possibly run from the East Palace to the West Palace just to use the toilet. As he walked, Wang Zhong recalled the layout of the harem. Unknowingly, he was getting more and more remote. Just at this moment, a fragrant wind suddenly blew over. Wang Zhong focused his eyes and immediately frowned. The person in front of him was Consort Chen, who had been banished to the cold palace. At this moment, Consort Chen's eyes were red. She cried, Your Majesty, I know I was wrong. Please let me go. Don't banish me to the cold palace. It's too miserable here. Whoa! It turned out that although Consort Chen had been banished to the cold palace and was not allowed to leave, she was constantly thinking about how to leave. Thus, she sent a maid out to find out. The maid was lucky. After a few steps, she saw Wang Zhong walking towards her. After knowing that Wang Zhong had come, concubine Chen immediately dressed herself up. She dressed up beautifully, and even put some fragrant rouge on her neck before coming here. Wang Zhong was angry when he saw Consort Chen. He frowned and said, "Get out of my way. I don't want to see you." "Your Majesty." Consort Chen knelt on the ground and kept kowtowing. "I will die here. Woo, this concubine has always been timid. I beg your Majesty to spare me. Your Majesty, please let Master go. The cold palace is cold and damp. Master's body has always been weak. It's easy for her to get sick." Consort Chen's maid was very loyal and helped persuade Consort Chen. Wang Zhong was about to scold her again when he noticed that he had unknowingly walked into the cold palace. Compared to the other places in the harem, the cold palace was very simple. More importantly, the cold palace was very close to the back door of the imperial palace. There were roads in all directions. There was also a large area outside. It could be used as a restaurant for workers to eat and a public toilet. It would be a good idea to open a clothing factory here. After making up his mind, Wang Zhong looked at Consort Chen and coldly snorted. "Zhen asks you, do you know your mistake?" Chapter 620. Zhen asks you, do you know your wrongs? This concubine knows her wrongs. This concubine was wrong. This concubine was too stupid. This concubine's brain is not good. This concubine really knows her wrongs. Concubine Chen said a lot in one breath. At this time, she can't refute anything. Otherwise, if she makes the emperor angry again, she's afraid it'll be hard for her to make a comeback. Looking at concubine Chen's full figure, Wang Zhong didn't care. His heart was as calm as water. In his mind, he remembered the information about concubine Chen. Concubine Chen's original name was Feng Chengcheng. Her father was just a small official. Because of her good relationship with Empress Dowager Lu Huan, Feng Chengcheng's prestige in the harem is very high. Thinking of this, Wang Zhong nodded and said, "Since you know your wrongs, Zhen has something for you to do. If you do it well, Zhen will restore your position as a concubine." Feng Chengcheng immediately kowtowed. "What does the emperor want this concubine to do? This concubine will definitely do it. Do you know how to do needlework? Needlework is an ancient needlework. This concubine learned it from mother before she got married. Although they are all from rich families, the girls of rich families also need to learn needlework. If they don't know how to do it, it means the girl is not educated, and their parents didn't teach them well, so they will be looked down upon." Wang Zhong said, "Very good. I want you to count the number of people in the harem, name and age. For those who don't know how to do needlework, start teaching them. What does the emperor want to do? You don't need to ask about this. By the way, from today onwards, you can go back to your previous residence, but you will not be a concubine." Although her position hasn't been restored, it's enough for Feng Chengcheng to leave this damned place. Then, with Wang Zhong's permission, Feng Chengcheng immediately went to pack her things. Wang Zhong walked into the cold palace and began to think about how to plan this place. After walking around half a circle, Wang Zhong secretly made a decision in his heart. After returning, Wang Zhong immediately went to the imperial study, ordered someone to take out a brush and ink, and began to draw a construction plan. He has experienced so many lives. He is very experienced in building large houses. "Emperor, this old servant is back." Not long after, Taigao returned, covered in dust. Emperor's foresight is indeed brilliant. That Shenan left before this old servant, but this old servant was the first to arrive at the execution ground. It seems that this Shun and is only outwardly complying with Emperor's wishes. His intentions are worthy of death. Well, how's Li Mingkai? This old servant has brought him back and is waiting at the door. Let him in. Li Mingkai's body was weak. As soon as he came in, it was as if he was blown down by the wind. He directly knelt on the ground, his eyes red. "This sinner Li Mingkai, kowtows in salute to your majesty. Long live your majesty." Officially, You actually became like this. Wang Zhong hurriedly helped Li Mingkai up. Now he needed people. Although Li Mingkai was fighting with the Lu faction for the sake of a party dispute, the enemy of an enemy was a friend. Wang Zhong naturally had to do a good job. Being valued so highly by Wang Zhong, Li Mingkai felt that he had met a wise ruler. Your Majesty, officially it's all my fault. I actually let you suffer like this. Servants, give him a seat. After Li Mingkai sat down, Wang Zhong asked Li Mingkai to explain the matter clearly. This time Li Mingkai was really unlucky to be imprisoned. Last year, there was a flood in the south. In order to prevent another disaster in the coming year, Li Mingkai proposed to build a water conservancy in the south. The construction of the water conservancy required silver. The National Treasury had allocated hundreds of thousands of silver. However, before the construction of the water conservancy began, an anonymous letter reported Li Mingkai and sent him to prison. If Wang Zhong hadn't saved him in time, his head would have fallen to the ground. Your Majesty, this sinner has wholeheartedly served the country. I have never taken bribes or perverted the law. Please investigate clearly. Well, this matter will be investigated carefully. Officially, you should return to the residence first and rest well. However, don't say too much, understand? Li Mingkai breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he had escaped a calamity. Lu residence. Lu Zhongbo was listening to Shen An's report. Prime Minister, I don't know what happened to the Emperor. He suddenly wanted to save Li Mingkai. Originally, I planned to deliberately slow down and let Li Mingkai's head fall to the ground. I didn't expect him to send eunuch He. This is troublesome. The Emperor doesn't trust me. Shen An finished speaking in one breath. He wiped his sweat and said, Prime Minister, do you think the Emperor suspects you? Lu Zhongbo held 2 large iron balls in his hands and sat in his seat. He said neither hurriedly nor slowly. The Emperor has never attended the morning court. Every day, he hides in the harem and plays. Not long ago, he suddenly ordered the death of concubine Li, banished concubine Chen to the cold palace, and put the Empress Dowager under house arrest. I heard that he is now very close to the Empress, Zhao Wan. He is going to make a big move. In fact, it was very disrespectful to call the Empress by her name. However, Lu Zhongbo obviously didn't care about this. He was used to being arrogant. In the entire imperial court, besides the Emperor, who could threaten him? Prime Minister, I'm afraid the Emperor will blame this humble subject for tomorrow's morning court. What should I do? Shen An was so anxious that he was sweating. Shen An was his subordinate, so he definitely had to protect him. Otherwise, if he couldn't even protect such a small matter, who would dare to follow him in the future? Don't worry, I will protect you tomorrow. If the Emperor insists on punishing you, I want to see if he really dares to fall out with you. Thank you, Prime Minister. The next morning, Wang Zhong deliberately woke up early and went to the throne room. Looking at the civil and military officials with different expressions, Wang Zhong sat on the dragon throne majestically. Below him, Lu Zhongbo stood on the right while Li Mingkai stood on the left. Li Mingkai was also a person with a temperament. He didn't hide his anger at all and glared at Lu Zhongbo. Lu Zhongbo naturally ignored this kind of angry glare. He even cupped his hands and congratulated Li Mingkai. Congratulations to Lord Li for not being beheaded. This old man is really happy for you. Humph. Li Mingkai swung his sleeves and ignored Lu Zhongbo. From this, it could be seen that Li Mingkai was a straightforward person. He showed everything on his face. Cough cough. Only after Wang Zhong stabilized himself in his seat did the civil and military officials below him shout out, Long live the Emperor! Rise. Start the memorial. What was surprising was that no one started the memorial today. Even Li Mingkai didn't come forward. This was because Wang Zhong had warned him beforehand. It was useless to mention Lu Zhongbo now, because Wang Zhong couldn't touch him for the time being. As for Lu Zhongbo, he naturally didn't have anything to report. Wang Zhong calmly scanned the crowd and said, Since my beloved officials don't have anything to report, I will say it. Guilty official Shen An. Shen An, who had lowered his head, felt his heart skip a beat. He walked up with a bitter expression. Guilty official is here. You are really bold. Yesterday, I asked you to rescue Lord Li. Why did you set off first but later than Uniki? Are you deliberately stalling for time, so that you can harm Lord Li? Wang Zhong directly pinned a big accusation on Shenan's face, causing his expression to change greatly. Your Majesty, I am innocent. Are you saying that I am innocent? Humph. What virtue and ability do you have to be innocent? Shenan quickly replied. This guilty official received your Majesty's order yesterday, and didn't dare to be negligent. I rushed to the execution ground as fast as I could. Unfortunately, the horse was tripped by a stone on the road, and this guilty official was thrown out. This guilty official was injured because of the fall, and was unconscious for more than 2 hours before waking up. Shenan's excuse was very good. After he finished speaking, he revealed the injury on his right foot. Your Majesty, this is the scar left behind by this guilty official when I fell down yesterday. May your Majesty understand. Then another official stood up. Reporting to your Majesty, this official thinks that although Lord Shen didn't complete the task your Majesty gave him, he did encounter danger on the road, and was injured. This wasn't what Lord Shen wanted, so I beg your Majesty to forgive Lord Shen. After he finished speaking, another official walked out. This official thinks the same. Lord Shen did his best to share your Majesty's worries. This time, there was an accident, so I ask your Majesty to forgive Lord Shen. This was great. It was like poking a hornet's nest. Each and every official was speaking for Shenan. These people were all from the Lu faction. The main leader Lu Zhongbua was standing there calmly. He didn't need to personally make a move to force Wang Zhong to let Shenan go. From this, it could be seen how much power Lu Zhongbua had in the imperial court. Li Mingsai's heart was filled with indignation, but at the same time, he was very worried. There were too many people in the Lu faction. On the other hand, there were only a few cats and dogs on his side. They were already disheartened and didn't dare to speak. Enough. Wang Zhong spoke with a cold face. The entire imperial court instantly became silent. Lord Shen, I didn't expect you to have such good relations with people. So many beloved officials are speaking for you. I really didn't expect this. Wang Zhong said lightly. Shenan seemed to be very proud. He cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, this guilty official is terrified. This guilty official also didn't expect that all the officials would speak for this guilty official. I ask your Majesty to forgive this guilty official. All right, since everyone is helping you, I naturally can't say anything. However, I'm a man of my words. I said before that if you can't complete my edict, I will definitely punish you. I can spare you the death penalty now, but you can't escape punishment. I'll punish you by flogging you 10 times. As Wang Zhong spoke, he used a sharp gaze to scan the officials. Shenan frowned. 10 flogging. This punishment wasn't too big, but it wasn't small either. After the flogging, he would have to rest for at least 1 or 2 days. As for Lu Zhongbua, he was a little puzzled. Why did the emperor have to punish Shenan? Clearly, the officials had all spoken. According to the emperor's temperament in the past, he shouldn't pursue this matter. Your Majesty, after thinking for a while, Lu Zhongbua spoke. He still wanted to protect Shenan. However, before he could speak, Wang Zhong waved his hand and said, Imperial uncle, I know what you want to say. However, an emperor doesn't joke. I've already taken a step back. What else do you want me to do? Lu Zhongbua frowned and cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, this humble official understands. It was nothing more than 10 flogging. Perhaps the emperor just wanted to save some face and let this matter go. Seeing that Lu Zhongbua didn't speak, Shenan knew that he would definitely suffer physical pain. He could only dejectedly be brought out by the soldiers. Soon Wang Zhong heard Shenan scream. Not good, not good. A eunuch suddenly ran in. Lord Shen's body is weak. He couldn't endure the 10 flogging punishment. It seems like he's dying from the pain. What? For a moment, the officials were shocked. Lord Shenan was actually beaten to death. Chapter 621. Wang Zhong was also shocked. He suddenly stood up and said, What are you guys doing? I was just giving him a small punishment. Why did you beat Lord Shen to death? This eunuch was He Taigao's confidant. With a panicked expression he explained. This servant is also not clear. I only hit him 5 times before Lord Shen stopped breathing. When this servant checked his breath, I found that Lord Shen had stopped breathing. Let's go and take a look. Wang Zhong furrowed his brows as he walked over, appearing extremely anxious. As expected of someone who used to be a big star, her acting skills were off the charts. At the side, He Taigao couldn't help but sigh. The emperor was getting worse and worse. Obviously, during the morning court, he had judged that the people of the Lu faction would think of a way to protect Shenan. That was why he had proposed the idea of 10 planks. This was not an ordinary punishment. The people who were beating him were all masters of the imperial palace. Previously, He Taigao had given them a death order under the instructions of Wang Zhong. Either Shenan died, or they died. It was up to them. As a result, these people naturally went all out. When he went out to take a look, he saw Shenan lying on a bench, motionless. Upon closer inspection, his legs were weak and his bones had been broken by the long rod. Greetings to your majesty. The eunuchs who were in charge of beating him quickly knelt down in fear. What's wrong with you guys? I told you to beat Lord Shen a few times. Why did you beat him to death? Reporting to your majesty, this servant didn't know that Lord Chen's body was so weak. This servant only lightly hit him a few times, and Lord Chen stopped breathing. Please forgive me, your majesty. Forgive my ass. Flustered and exasperated, Wang Zhong kicked the little eunuch to the side. The little eunuch was quite good at acting. He cried and screamed as he rolled on the ground a few times. He crawled up and immediately knelt down and kowtowed. Your majesty, please quell your anger. This servant knows his mistake. Great companion. This old servant is here. These dog slaves are really outrageous. Drag them down and give them 10 strokes each. I want to see if they will be beaten to death. Wang Zhong coldly snorted and said, Your Majesty, these dogs of a slave have committed a heinous crime. They actually dared to kill official Chen. Your Majesty, please grant them death. Lu Zhongpa stepped forward and said, Imperial uncle, I was the one who punished Lord Shen. Now that he's been beaten to death, doesn't that mean that I'm also going to be sentenced to death? Wang Zhong asked disdainfully. I dare not. If you don't dare, then forget it. In the end, this matter was caused by Lord Shen, who asked him to not complete my decree. Now that he's beaten to death, perhaps, this is God's will. However, I am not a heartless person. Although Lord Shen did not contribute much during his lifetime, he still worked hard. I announced that I will personally arrange Lord Shen's funeral. It sounded nice, but in fact Wang Zhong didn't want anyone to find clues about Shenan's body. It seemed that Shenan's legs were injured, but in fact, in order to make him die, one of these dogs had smashed Shenan's heart with a palm. In order to avoid trouble, he would personally arrange the funeral. He would give Shenan's family face and wouldn't let anyone find out anything. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Great friend, order people to seal official Chen's body with the best sandalwood. This old servant obeys. The group of officials had ugly expressions. They didn't expect Shenan to die in front of so many people. When they returned to the throne room, Wang Zhong said, Now that official Chen has died, the Ministry of Justice cannot be without a leader. Officially, you are the oldest here. Do you have a suitable candidate? He was purposely letting Li Mingkai promote his own people. Li Mingkai was excited and quickly replied, Official Zhang Dongliang of the Ministry of Justice is familiar with the law. He is upright in enforcing the law. He is dedicated to the pleading of the people and is loyal to the emperor. I think that official Zhang is suitable for the position of Minister of Justice. Then let him do it. However, if he doesn't do it well, I will not let him off easily. Wang Zhong deliberately said, Great friend, draft an imperial edict. Lu Zhongpa, who was standing at the head of the table, had a cold expression. The Ministry of Justice had the power to enforce the law. He didn't expect that Shenan would die and someone else would take over. Of course he knew Zhang Dongliang. He was a small official in the Ministry of Justice and belonged to the Li faction. The emperor was going to support the Li faction. Of course, Lu Zhongpa wouldn't sit and watch such a thing happen. Just as he was about to object to Zhang Dongliang's choice, Wang Zhong suddenly covered his head and said, "Ah, I have a headache. That's all for today. The court is dismissed." Wang Zhong immediately left. Umph. Lu Zhongpa snorted and left with a fierce expression. The emperor was becoming more and more disobedient. It seemed that he was enlightened and needed someone more obedient. In the afternoon, Wang Zhong fulfilled his promise and ordered people to carry Shen An's coffin to the Shen family. Everyone in the Shen family was crying their hearts out. Shen An was the pillar of the Shen family. Now that he died so carelessly, it was obvious that the Shen family wouldn't be able to survive in the future. However, that wasn't what Wang Zhong was thinking. Shen An's official position wasn't very high and his annual salary wasn't very high. However, the decorations in the Shen family were comparable to that of a big merchant. Not only that, but Shen An also had a shocking number of wives and concubines. There were more than 20 of them. Damn it, he had more wives than the emperor. How could this be? It wasn't hard to imagine how much money Shen An had embezzled. This kind of person should have his house confiscated. However, it didn't matter. The Ministry of Justice had replaced his people. Once Zhang Dongliang took office, the first thing he did was to get rid of Shen An's faction. Next, he would investigate Shen An's embezzlement. When that time came, Shen An's house would be confiscated. There were so many properties here, but they were only temporarily. Sooner or later, they would belong to Wang Zhong. After that, Wang Zhong pretended to offer his condolences. Naturally, he couldn't stay for the whole funeral. After arranging for his subordinates to keep an eye on things, he left. After returning to the palace, Wang Zhong sent someone to order the newly appointed Minister of Justice, Zhang Dongliang, to get rid of Shen An's old subordinates. Zhang Dongliang had always been at odds with Shen An in the Ministry of Justice. However, after all, he had been in the Ministry of Justice for many years. Naturally, he knew who could be trusted and who couldn't. Wang Zhong had already hinted to him that those who disobeyed would be sent to prison first. At this time, Wang Zhong wasn't afraid of wronging a good person. He would rather kill a wrong person than commit a wrong. In the future, he wouldn't be a fatuous ruler. He would be a tyrant. Kindness and justice were all bullshit. When everyone was afraid of you, the country would be prosperous and the people would be at peace. After settling the matters in the Ministry of Justice, Wang Zhong gathered a group of carpenters and architects in the palace and began to build a clothing factory. Because the cold palace already had a large temporary residence, they were only building toilets and warehouses to store finished products. Therefore, this expenditure wasn't considered a big one. Of course, many people were curious as to why the emperor would build a house for no reason. Except for a few people, Wang Zhong didn't say anything. "Your Majesty, this is He. I gave him this name. He has been with me since he was young. He is very clever." After settling the matters, He Taigao asked the eunuchs who killed Shen An today to see the emperor. According to He Taigao, this eunuch called He had the best martial arts. This eunuch sold He into the palace to pay off his gambling debts, because his father gambled when he was young. He Taigao saw that this eunuch was quite clever. He had a high forehead and slender bones. He was a good seedling for martial arts, so he took him in. Now Hishi's martial arts were quite good. Wang Zhong was very satisfied. "Well, Hishi, are you loyal to me? Your Majesty, this servant is loyal to you. I will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire." Hishi was very excited. He knew that He Taigao asked him to see the emperor because he wanted to promote him. "Good, you have all done well today. What I need now is talents like you. I will give each of you 100 taels of silver as a reward. In the future, you will monitor the palace from top to bottom. Whoever has contact with the outside world, report to Eunuchy. If you can find more than 10 people, I will give you the position of supervisor of the inner 12 eunuchs." He Taigao was in charge of the inner 12 eunuchs now, but there was still the position of supervisor. This position was neither high nor low in the palace, but it was very attractive to the eunuchs at the bottom. "This servant will do my best." Well, this matter must not be made public. Whoever is weak and insensible, don't blame me for being ruthless. The eunuchs were shocked. They knew that the emperor was not joking with them. Night fell. The Empress Zhao Luan had traveled a long way, so she had not returned yet. Wang Zhong was reading a few ancient books alone in the imperial study. He had been too busy for the past few days, so he did not have time to look up anything about martial arts in this world. At this moment, he found that there were a few martial arts secret books in the imperial study. However, the previous emperors were not interested in martial arts. Even if they saw these secret books, they would not take a look at them. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Wang Zhong silently gathered his qi. He followed the posture he used to practice and operated the qi in his body. Bang! With a punch, a weak burst of energy gushed out from Wang Zhong's palm. Restraining his qi, Wang Zhong showed a smile. Just as he guessed, the people in this world could practice Nigong. Sure enough, he could practice Nigong too. He was originally a martial arts master from another world. Although the body of the original Wang Zhong was trash, Wang Zhong's understanding was still there. Now, he only needed to practice the basic moves and let this body gradually get familiar with it. By then, his Nigong would definitely become stronger. Hiss! He suddenly gathered his qi. There was indeed spirit qi in the air, which was why he could practice Nigong. However, the spirit qi was too thin, so he could only practice Nigong. It was impossible to practice qi or spirit qi. But this is enough for me. Wang Zhong waved his fist and said to himself, "Dong dong dong." At this time, there was a knock on the door. A little eunuch's voice came. "Your Majesty, concubine Feng Chengqing requests an audience." Feng Chengqing was concubine Chen, who was previously banished to the cold palace. After Wang Zhong gave her the task of calculating what some people in the harem knew, she did not dare to delay for a moment. After calculating, she immediately came. "Feng Chengqing greets His Majesty. Long live His Majesty." Feng Chengqing looked at the high and mighty Wang Zhong and felt bitter in her heart. She used to be an imperial concubine, and everyone respectfully called her concubine Chen. Now, she was demoted to concubine Chen. The so-called concubine Chen was an ordinary person. According to the rules, their status in the palace was even lower than a palace maid. Chapter 622. Fortunately, the people in the harem knew that Feng Chengqing had not completely lost power, so they did not dare to do anything to her. Otherwise, if she really lost power, Feng Chengqing would be bullied to death. "You may rise." He glanced at Feng Chengqing and said, "How is the matter that we gave you coming along? This concubine does not dare to neglect the matter your Majesty gave me. Here is a list of those who know how to make bonuses." Taking the list from Feng Chengqing, Wang Zhong did not look at it. Instead, he asked, "Are you angry at us?" This concubine does not dare. This concubine knows her wrongs. It's good that you know your wrongs, but this is not enough. Right now, we want you to gather evidence of the other concubines in the harem committing outrages, especially the Empress Dowager. We know that you were close to the Empress Dowager in the past, so you should know where she spends her money, right? "Ah." Feng Chengqing trembled and quickly kowtowed. "Your Majesty, the Empress Dowager is my mother. This concubine does not dare. I'll give you two choices. Either you do as we say, or you end up like concubine Li. We will bestow you with a death sentence." Feng Chengqing suddenly raised her head. Her eyes filled with panic. Seeing this scene, Wang Zhong was very satisfied. This was the effect he wanted. Although the harem had the help of Empress Zhao Luan, one was too little. In addition, after Zhao Luan came to the harem, no one was willing to submit to her. Her personality was too kind, so it was very difficult to maintain the overall situation. However, this Feng Chengqing was good at scheming and could read people's expressions. If he could use her, he would not have to worry about the harem. Of course, the prerequisite was that Feng Chengqing was absolutely loyal. But if he wanted a scheming woman like Feng Chengqing to be absolutely loyal, it was useless to give her benefits. Didn't you see how much the original Luo Zhao fawned over her? But Feng Chengqing was still arrogant and rude? Thus, when dealing with this kind of woman, he could only be domineering. Disobedient? We will throw you into the cold palace. Still disobedient? We will bestow you with a death sentence. I'm just asking you if you're scared. Fear was sometimes the most effective thing to make people obedient. Your Majesty, Chenxia. Chenxia is willing to listen to your majesty. Hearing that she was going to die, how could Feng Chengcheng dare to say anything else? She quickly agreed. Haha, that's my beloved concubine. It's settled then, my beloved concubine. But I hope you won't go back on your words. Otherwise, once there's news that's unfavorable to me, ha, I guarantee that you'll be the first one I kill. Feng Chengcheng scowled miserably. This concubine doesn't dare. You may leave. Yes, your majesty. Several days passed, and the plans were carried out in an orderly manner. What surprised Wang Zhong was that Lu Zhongbua had stopped these days and didn't make any big moves. However, this made Wang Zhong even more vigilant. Lu Zhongbua was able to sit in his current position not only because of the Empress Dowager, but also because of his ruthlessness. Didn't you see that he had killed so many emperors before him? Fortunately, Wang Zhong had not been idle these days. The number of people he could use was increasing. Wang Zhong no longer put many of those who were found to be spies outside. Now the construction of the cold palace had also begun. First was the toilet. Next was the wooden table for making clothes. In this era, it was impossible to make sewing machines. However, it was easy to increase their efficiency through factory management. There were many ways to increase efficiency. The most effective way was to divide them into groups, and each group would be responsible for a single task. For example, the first group to the 10th group would be in charge of cutting. The 11th to the 20th group would be in charge of sewing. After that, they would be in charge of trimming, stuffing, and other processes. 10 days later, Zhao Luan finally hurried back from the back door of the harem. Empress, you've worked hard. At Zhao Luan's residence, Wang Zhong looked at the travel-worn Zhao Luan and pulled her into his arms. Your Majesty. Although Zhao Luan was very tired, her heart was filled with sweetness. Then, Zhao Luan told him about her schedule. Her first step was to go back to her hometown. However, she didn't go home to visit. After finding dozens of cotton-padded clothes merchants, she negotiated a good price. Then she went to the cotton farmers and directly bought in bulk without any middlemen. This concubine has already negotiated the goods. They will be in charge of transporting it over, Zhao Luan said. It's a bit far. How about this, send a group of guards over, Wang Zhong said. All right. Zhao Luan nodded slightly. The Empress hasn't eaten yet, right? Let's drink a few cups together and chat about recent events. I'm sure the Empress will be interested. Wang Zhong hugged Zhao Luan's waist. The palace maids and eunuchs behind them sensibly lowered their heads and slowly retreated. Zhao Luan was shy and said gently, This concubine will go to the imperial kitchen and prepare some dishes that your majesty likes to eat. No need. I know you're coming back today. I've already ordered the dishes to be prepared. Did your majesty wait for this concubine here? Zhao Luan was touched. Although this trip was tiring, she felt that it was worth it to be doted on by the emperor. Empress, you've worked hard for me. Why should I wait for you? I can't wait to dote on you. Thank you, your majesty. Zhao Luan blushed and let Wang Zhong help her to sit down. After a while, the imperial kitchen brought over dinner. It was rare for Wang Zhong to prepare so much for today's dinner. It was to reward the empress. After the dinner was laid out, Zhao Luan said in surprise, Your Majesty, it's just us. Isn't it too much? It's not much at all. The Empress is my favorite woman. I think it's too little. As he spoke, a palace maid came in with wine. Your Majesty, this is the wine specially prepared by the imperial kitchen. The palace maid came over and poured wine for Wang Zhong. After the meal was prepared, a young eunuch came in. He picked up a pair of chopsticks and began to taste the food. In order to prevent himself from being plotted against, Wang Zhong would have a young eunuch taste the food before he ate. He would only eat after making sure there was no poison. The young eunuch picked up a small piece of fish and ate it a few times. There was no problem. He then took the wine from the palace maid and tried it. But at this time, Wang Zhong realized that something was wrong. The palace maid in front of him didn't have any respect for him. Instead, she was looking straight at him. This alerted Wang Zhong. Sure enough, in the next moment, the palace maid sent the little eunuch flying with a kick. She suddenly pulled out a dagger from her long sleeve and stabbed it straight at Wang Zhong. "Tyrant, give me your life." It happened too suddenly. There was only the young eunuch, Wang Zhong, and Zhao Wan in the room. Even if the imperial guards outside noticed something was wrong, it was too late. This palace maid was clearly determined to assassinate Wang Zhong. She went straight for Wang Zhong's heart. Wang Zhong didn't panic. He wasn't the same as when he first came here. After such a long period of training, he had the ability to protect himself. "Your Majesty, be careful." Zhao Wan took the lead and smashed the wine cup in her hand at the palace maid's face. The palace maid was knocked back. While she was panicking, Zhao Wan had already arrived. Zhao Wan was furious. There was someone in the palace who wanted to assassinate the emperor. They must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. Furthermore, they were in her residence. Zhao Wan was a descendant of a general. She had some martial arts. In a fit of anger, Zhao Wan arrived in front of the palace maid and started fighting. "Save me, save me." The young eunuch who was tasting the food also reacted and shouted anxiously. Bang, bang. The imperial guards outside rushed in and surrounded the room in the blink of an eye. "Tyrant, your empire will be destroyed." After the palace maid shouted this, she seemed to know that she was going to die. There was no hope for her to kill Wang Zhong. She threw a poison pill into her mouth. In the blink of an eye, she was foaming at the mouth. "Empress, are you all right?" Wang Zhong pulled Zhao Wan back. Zhao Wan frowned and said, "Your Majesty, I know my mistake. I didn't expect an assassin to appear here." "It's not your fault. Men, call the imperial kitchen over." This palace maid was carrying food from the imperial kitchen. The problem was with the imperial kitchen. Your Majesty, are you all right?" Soon He Taigao rushed in. Wang Zhong waved his hand and said, "I'm fine. Investigate the imperial kitchen." "Yes, Your Majesty." He Taigao was worried. As it was already late, he went to rest. Only the young eunuch was left here. He did not expect this to happen. He went out to investigate personally. The imperial kitchen was brought over, but it had nothing to do with them. The reason was simple. In the garden, the imperial guards found the corpse of a palace maid. This palace maid was the one who delivered the wine from the imperial kitchen. "This assassin seems to be from outside," He Taigao said. "Humph, those treacherous officials wanted to poison me when they saw that I was dealing with the imperial court." After thinking for a while, Wang Zhong suddenly smiled and said, "However, this is also an opportunity." "Your Majesty, you mean?" He Taigao was puzzled. "Announced that I was attacked by an assassin and was seriously injured. At the same time, find out that the assassin was sent by Shun An's family. Shun An's family is holding a grudge against me. They sent someone to assassinate me. Their motives are unknown. Arrest everyone in the Shun family." Wang Zhong had thought it through. He was seriously injured so that he could avoid the morning court. He did not want those officials to force him to do something. As for the confiscation of Shun An's family, he had planned to let the new Minister of Justice, Zhang Dongliang, investigate slowly. However, that would be too slow. He was worried that the Shun family would transfer their property if he continued investigating. So he decided to confiscate the Shun family's property. Now that the Shun family had lost their backbone, even if they wanted to do something to him, they would not be able to do anything. His military strength was enough. After He Taigao left, Wang Zhong laughed and said, "Your Majesty, let's continue drinking." "Why don't I go and change the dishes?" "No need. I'll pour the wine for Your Majesty." Zhao Wan poured the wine. The more Wang Zhong looked at Zhao Wan, the more satisfied he was. The previous emperor, Luo Zhao, was a fool. Zhao Wan not only had long legs, but she was also good at martial arts. She was the perfect wife. Luo Zhao, on the other hand, had neglected Zhao Wan for so long. "Your Majesty's martial arts are not bad. Where did you learn it from?" "My master is a general in my father's tent." Speaking of this, Zhao Wan suddenly knelt down and said, "Your Majesty, I have a presumptuous request. I hope Your Majesty will agree to it." She directly asked for his consent. It seemed that this matter was very important to Zhao Wan. "What is it?" Chapter 623. Zhao Wan quickly said, When I went back this time, I heard that Mengti, a general in my father's camp, was in big trouble. Then, Zhao Wan began to explain. Mengti was in his 50s. After Zhao Wan's father died, Mengti was kicked out of the army and became an ordinary person. However, he did not expect that his former political enemies would not let Mengti off. Not long ago, someone framed Mengti for corruption in the military, so Mengti was arrested and imprisoned. Mengti's family could not sit by and watch him be beheaded. They asked the empress for help. When Zhao Wan heard the news, she immediately told Wang Zhong. Your Majesty, Mengti was loyal to your Majesty. He was an upright man who was good at war, and had made countless contributions. I'm worried that his old subordinates would be disheartened by his death. Please, Your Majesty, intervene in this case. How long will it take for the trial to begin? Wang Zhong asked. Half a month later. The case will be heard by Magistrate Lu Pingying. Okay, I understand. Wang Zhong nodded approvingly. If Zhao Wan could save Mengti, it meant that she had absolute trust in him. Now he did not have enough military power. If he could get a few generals to help him, he would not be afraid of a few rebels. The next day, the news of the emperor's serious injury spread. Lu residence. Lu Zhongbo went to the morning court. However, when he heard the news, he returned. Although the emperor was injured, Lu Zhongbo was not happy at all. The assassin was one of his men. However, the emperor was only injured and did not die. Fortunately, although the assassin was one of his men, she did not know that he was the one who sent her out. Moreover, these assassins were men of sacrifice. He did not have to worry about anything for now. Father. A young man walked in anxiously. Why are you panicking? Just now, the Ministry of Justice suddenly surrounded the Shun residence. It is said that an assassin injured the emperor yesterday. The assassin confessed that it was the Shun family who ordered it. The Shun family hated Shun An's death and wanted to assassinate the emperor. Lu Zhongbo clenched his fists. Others did not know, but he knew that someone was messing with the Shun family, because the assassin was one of his men. But it was impossible for him to jump out and object. Lu Zhongbo sat down helplessly. We might have underestimated this emperor. It's a pity that the Empress Dowager is under house arrest. Otherwise, we would definitely make things difficult for him. What should we do next? Father, His Majesty clearly wants to deal with us. He's removing our people step by step. Why don't we force him to abdicate? No. Lu Zhongbo immediately rejected this suggestion. Even though I have many helpers in the court, I don't have complete control over the military, especially the imperial guards and the city guards. If we force the abdication, our entire family will die. In the past, the emperor only knew how to play, so he didn't care about their corruption. However, the reason why Lu Zhongbo did not dare to usurp the throne was because the military power was not in his hands. Right, I know what to do now. Lu Zhongbo's eyes lit up. Isn't the emperor injured? Send the imperial physician in. Father, you mean to let the imperial physicians? Son, you're too silly. You can see through this kind of thing, but you don't say it out loud. I understand. Both father and son laughed sinisterly. In the palace, the newly appointed Minister of Justice, Zhang Dongliang, reported the Shun family's wealth to Wang Zhong. Wang Zhong already knew that Shen had embezzled a lot of money. However, after hearing the report, he realized that it was not just a lot. Just the money alone was more than 3 million taels. Good Minister Zhang, you've done well. Wang Zhong nodded his head in satisfaction. With this money, he would be able to solve his urgent problems. Your Majesty, how should we deal with the Shen family? It would be too easy for them to be executed just like that. Wang Zhong took a few steps forward and suddenly his eyes lit up. He could open a private hospital. Shen had dozens of wives and concubines. In addition, he also had dozens of daughters. If he sold all of them to the private hospital, he wouldn't even care about the cost. These people would bring him an endless stream of money. It had to be said that after becoming the emperor of a country, Wang Zhong had never had such a strong need for money. Of course, if this matter was spread out, the world would definitely talk about it. However, it didn't matter. Wang Zhong wanted them to be willing. Shen An's current crime was confiscation of his family's property. Not only that, his entire family would be executed. Therefore, Wang Zhong gave them a chance to live. If they wanted to live, they had to work in the private hospital that he opened. What? If they didn't want to work, they could go to hell. As for the men, Wang Zhong had already thought about it. After the situation was stabilized and he had the money, he would build guns and cannons. With so many guns and cannons, he would need a lot of iron. If these men wanted to live, fine, they would have to work in the mines for 10 years. After that, he would let them go. What? If they didn't want to work in the mines, they could go to hell. Therefore, Wang Zhong told Zhang Dongliang his plan. Zhang Dongliang looked righteous and was not old. He was about 30 years old. Looking at his appearance, one could tell that he was a righteous scholar. Therefore, after hearing Wang Zhong's words, he was stunned. Using criminals to earn money for the imperial family? Free labor? Damn, only the emperor could think of such a thing, right? Your Majesty, if you do this, won't the world talk behind your back? Zhang Dongliang was a straightforward person. He didn't know how to beat around the bush. He also didn't know how to flatter the emperor. He directly asked his question. Wang Zhong was actually quite fond of such people. What he hated the most were people who flattered him all day long. Although Zhang Dongliang's words were not pleasant to hear, it was rare for him to be able to give constructive suggestions. If the world wants to talk bad about me, then let them. My dear minister, do you think that if I don't do this, the world will not talk about it? Moreover, I'm giving the Shen family a way to live. However, I won't raise them for nothing. If they want to live, they have to contribute to the country. Do you understand? Zhang Dongliang lowered his head. I understand. Very good. You may leave. After dealing with this matter, He Taigao suddenly walked in. Your Majesty, the imperial physician, Huang Qiren, is here. I don't remember asking the imperial physician to come. What is he doing here? After Wang Zhong announced to the public that he was injured, he already told the world that he had a famous physician. He didn't summon the imperial physician. Therefore, Wang Zhong was quite puzzled. Imperial physician Huang said that he was worried about your Majesty's health, so he came here. After that, He Taigao said worriedly, Your Majesty, if you don't let imperial physician Huang examine you this time, it won't make sense. It will inevitably arouse suspicion. However, if you let him in, what if he finds something wrong? What should I do? Haha, let him inspect for me. I want to see what kind of flowers he can find. He Taigao didn't know how Wang Zhong would deal with it. However, seeing how confident Wang Zhong was, He Taigao didn't dare to delay. He nodded and went out. Soon he shouted, Summon imperial physician Huang Qiren for an audience. Wang Zhong sat on the dragon throne. He didn't seem to be in a good state of mind. This humble subject, Huang Qiren, greets your Majesty. Long live your Majesty. Imperial physician Huang, it's been hard on you. However, I already had a famous physician examine me last night. You don't have to worry, Wang Zhong said calmly. However, since you're already here, why don't you take a look at me? Huang Qiren was still thinking about how to persuade Wang Zhong to examine him. He didn't expect Wang Zhong to agree. He was delighted. He walked over and began to examine Wang Zhong. Huang Qiren's frown deepened as he examined him. The emperor's health seemed to be quite good. Imperial physician Huang, how is my injury? Your Majesty, where is your injury? My heart. Wang Zhong pointed to his heart. No wonder, no wonder. Your Majesty, your heart is bleeding. I'm afraid it will hurt your meridians. Oh, Imperial physician Huang, how will you treat me? This humble subject will immediately go and decoct the medicine for your Majesty. Your Majesty only needs to take it for 5 days. The medicine will definitely cure you. Thank you. This humble subject will take his leave. After Huang Qiren left, Wang Zhong sneered. He didn't expect Lu Zhongbua to not only send assassins, but even the imperial physician was under his control. I won't be at ease if I don't get rid of this bastard. In fact, Wang Zhong could have just ripped open his stomach and pointed at Huang Qiren. I'm not injured. However, that would have alerted the enemy. Didn't Huang Qiren say that he needed to take the medicine for 5 days? Then he would wait for him for 5 days. For Wang Zhong, time was money. He needed to develop his strength in a wretched manner. Thinking about it, Lu Zhongbo wouldn't do anything to him in these 5 days. And that was enough. Late at night, Wang Zhong went to inspect the clothing factory. Wang Zhong had built an airtight harem, and there were trustworthy people in charge of every aspect of the harem. This was all thanks to Empress Zhao Wan and Feng Chengcheng, especially Feng Chengcheng. This woman was indeed good at scheming. She recorded all the palace maids and eunuchs who weren't loyal to the emperor in a small notebook. Wang Zhong didn't kill these people. After all, he needed people now. How could he kill people for no reason? That would be too bloody. Now these people were wealth to Wang Zhong. They could create great benefits for him. Therefore, these people were sent to work in the clothing factory by Wang Zhong. The walls of the cold palace were raised. No one was allowed to leave. They had to eat and live inside. Now the first batch of clothes, cotton, and other raw materials had been sent in. Wang Zhong had already arranged for the people in the palace to start making cotton clothes. The cotton clothes he made didn't have high requirements for appearance. They were just black, gray, and white. However, they had to be sturdy. Wang Zhong meticulously arranged the work of the people in the harem. A few concubines were appointed as workshop leaders. As for Empress Zhao Wan, she was appointed as the workshop director. In order to prevent people from being lazy, Wang Zhong also set up a reward and punishment system. Everyone could earn work points for the work they did. The more work points they had, the more they could use them to exchange for their favorite food, favorite clothes, rouge, and other things. They could even use work points to exchange for a few days of rest. This was also Wang Zhong's consideration of humanity. After all, not everyone in the harem had committed a capital crime. It was necessary to let the people who worked feel hopeful. While he was busy with the construction of the clothing factory, Wang Zhong summoned a few blacksmiths over. It was time for him to start manufacturing firearms. Chapter 624. LV Zhongbua and Huang Qiren had been waiting for news ever since Huang Qiren prescribed the medicine for Wang Zhong and told him to take it on time. Don't worry, Prime Minister LV. Today is the 4th day. After tomorrow, the snake poison that I personally prescribed will definitely make the emperor. At this point, Huang Qiren stopped talking. Everyone understood what he meant. Ha, that's good. But the news of the emperor's critical condition should have been out by now. LV Zhongbua frowned. Although Huang Qiren had told him not to worry, the more LV Zhongbua said that, the more worried he became. The reason was simple. He had lost contact with several spies in the palace recently, which made him very uneasy. There was no news from the palace now, but there was news that the emperor was remodeling the harem. It seemed to be building something called a clothing factory. The project seemed to be quite big. It was said that thousands of people in the harem were gathered in the cold palace to start work. There was no news after that. He guessed that his spies had all gone to the cold palace. Imperial Dr. Huang, I'll have to trouble you. This is a small gift from this old man. LV Zhongbua waved his hand. The next moment, 2 experts suddenly rushed out of the darkness. The 2 of them held long swords and slit Huang Qiren's neck in an instant. You! Huang Qiren covered his bleeding neck with a look of disbelief. He didn't expect Prime Minister LV to kill him. Suddenly, his eyes widened as he thought of something. That's right, once the emperor died, the palace would definitely investigate thoroughly. At that time, if they found out that it was him, what would he do if he sold out Lu Zhongbua? That was why LV Zhongbua wanted to silence him. For a moment, Huang Qiren regretted that he was blinded by the 2 boxes of gold. Imperial Dr. Huang, thank you for your hard work. I promise to take good care of your family. Thud. Huang Qiren fell to the ground. Huang Qiren didn't go back that night. Even Huang Qiren's butler and servants were nowhere to be seen. No one knew where they went. But the next day, there was news from the palace that Huang Qiren had poisoned the emperor. These days, the emperor's health was getting worse and worse, so they invited a famous doctor from the palace to treat him. They accidentally discovered that the medicine that Huang Qiren gave the emperor contained poison. So the palace's army immediately surrounded imperial physician Huang's home. Bring them all back. Yi Taigao sat on his horse and waved his hand. Huang Qiren's entire family was captured. Naturally, their property was confiscated. With this, Wang Zhong earned a few 100,000 yuan. It seemed that the imperial physician was not as wealthy as the Minister of Justice. However, it was still pretty good. Take it slow. These corrupt officials were all going to have their properties confiscated. If things didn't go well, they might try to force him to abdicate. Forcing an abdication was different from rebellion. Rebellion could be suppressed by the army, but forcing an abdication was impossible. Forcing an abdication meant that the ministers were dissatisfied with your policies. It was similar to going on strike. If you, the emperor, didn't change your policies, so many of us would quit. Let's see how your country would operate. At this time, the emperor couldn't kill people. Otherwise, more and more people would rebel. Although Wang Zhong had the imperial guards, if they really fought, the entire country would be in chaos. This wasn't something that Wang Zhong wanted to see. At first, Wang Zhong wanted to delay time and not go to the morning court. These ministers from the Lu faction didn't want to meet any of them. But not long after, more than 10 ministers jointly requested an audience. Otherwise, they would kneel outside and not get up. Fine, kneel then. Let's ignore them for a few days. Wang Zhong said indifferently. Then he calculated the time. The empress wanted him to save Mingti. It was almost time for him to be sentenced. Sir, the magistrate Lu Yingping is going to try a person called Mengti for corruption. Quickly go to the prison and save Mengti. That night, Wang Zhong arranged for He Taigao to go out and do some work. This old servant will go immediately. He Taigao didn't dare to delay, and quickly went out. Looking at He Taigao's back, Wang Zhong lamented that he didn't have enough people he could use. He Taigao had been busy for the past few days, and his hair had turned white. At this moment he thought of the Eastern Faction Depot. The Eastern Faction Depot used to be a secret service established by the late emperor. At that time, the late emperor had just established the Great Yin dynasty. To prevent people from plotting against him, he kept a large group of people from the Eastern Faction Depot. These people were the emperor's eyes and ears. They were used to gather information. Back then, officials who were corrupt, who communicated with foreign enemies, and who even spoke ill of the emperor behind his back relied on these people from the Eastern Faction Depot to inform the late emperor. Once they were found out, they would not be let off easily. Unfortunately, after the late emperor died, the emperors who came after him were all idiots. When they saw the ministers fawning over him, they thought it was true. A group of civil officials said that the Eastern Faction Depot had harmed countless people, and that the people were resentful. In order to protect the emperor's reputation, the Eastern Faction Depot had to be removed. Hence, after the emperor's brainless actions, the Eastern Faction Depot became smaller and smaller. At first it had a few thousand people. Gradually, it became a small organization with a few hundred people. In fact, it had been a few years since the Eastern Faction Depot made a move. Moreover, the civil officials had been persecuted by the Eastern Faction Depot before. When they saw the Eastern Faction Depot losing power, they tried their best to suppress it. Now the Eastern Faction Depot was struggling at death's door. They were no longer a threat. Men! Greetings, Your Majesty. He Taigao's disciple He Shi walked in. Let Xiejin into the palace. Yes, Your Majesty. Xiejin was the supervisor of the Eastern Faction Depot. He used to be quite powerful. Now he was being bullied everywhere. He led a group of eunuchs from the Eastern Faction Depot to struggle at death's door. He was no longer as glorious as he used to be. In Wang Zhong's memory, he remembered that when the original owner of his body, Luo Zhao, had just ascended the throne, Xiejin had entered the palace to meet Luo Zhao once. He said that the Eastern Faction Depot was very important to the emperor, and that he could share the emperor's burdens. However, Luo Zhao was a fool at that time. He did not pay attention to Xiejin at all. Soon, Xiejin was led in by a young eunuch. Xiejin looked even thinner. He seemed to have left in a hurry. His face was filled with excitement. After so many years, this was the first time the emperor had asked him to enter the palace to meet the emperor. It was very likely that there was something important for him to do. During this period, Xiejin's Eastern Faction Depot seemed to be decadent. However, he did not do nothing. There were still some rumors. Wang Zhong had recently reformed the imperial harem. He had set up a strange clothing factory in the imperial harem. After that, he had arrested in Delhi Shinan imperial physician Huang, and the others one by one. Anyone with a discerning eye could see the reason behind this series of actions. What was the reason? Don't ask. If you did, it would be a big move. Xie Jin was not a person without ambition. As a eunuch who used to be very powerful in the Eastern Faction Depot, he was no longer a man. Now he only liked two things, money and power. These two things could not be obtained by relying on the ministers. It was very difficult for eunuchs to cooperate with the ministers. Only the emperor could help. He had also considered meeting the emperor again in the near future to serve the emperor. He did not expect the emperor to find him himself. This made him very excited. This old servant, Xie Jin, kowtows in salute to the emperor. May the emperor have good fortune and peace. Xie Jin knelt down excitedly. He had not seen the emperor for a long time. He was a martial arts practitioner, and could tell that the emperor was different from before. In the past, the emperor had indulged too much in women, and was dispirited. Even if he wore a dragon robe, he still looked like a country bumpkin. But now the emperor was full of energy. His temples were bulging and his forehead was raised. This was a sign that he was practicing martial arts. The emperor had started practicing martial arts. As expected, his guess was right. The emperor had really changed. Get up, eunuch Xie, Wang Zhong said calmly. Thank you, emperor. Although Xie Jin got up, he did not dare to stand straight in front of Wang Zhong. He still bent his waist. Eunuch Xie, do you know what happened in the imperial court recently? Emperor, this old servant heard a little about it. Then tell me, did I do the right thing? Wang Zhong stared at Xie Jin. He wanted to know if Xie Jin was really loyal. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome to fatten up the Eastern Faction Depot for no reason. Emperor, this old servant is stupid. I wonder what Emperor is referring to. I am referring to everything you know. Wang Zhong's tone was calm. He continued, I don't like stupid people. Do you understand? Chapter 625. Hearing Wang Zhong's words, Xie Jin's heart trembled. He secretly scolded himself for being stupid. The emperor had personally met him and told him this. What did this mean? It meant that the emperor was prepared to put him in an important position. This was a good opportunity for him to perform, but he actually pretended to be stupid. Xie Jin immediately stopped pretending and said solemnly, Your Majesty, this old servant is Your Majesty's dog servant. If Your Majesty wants to do anything, this old servant will do it. If Your Majesty is happy, this old servant will be happy. Even if Your Majesty wants to kill this old servant will wash my neck and chop it off for Your Majesty. As expected of a dog servant, his words were so pleasant to hear. Very good, Zhen likes dog servants like you. This old servant is Your Majesty's dog servant. And Xie Jin, Zhen has wronged you all these years. Xie Jin was stunned at first, then he panicked. This old servant is terrified. Your Majesty's kindness to this old servant is as heavy as a mountain. This old servant is already very happy that you kept this old servant, and gave this old servant a bite to eat. How can this old servant be wronged? You don't need to flatter me. Zhen had no choice in the past. You should know that there are some things that Zhen can't do. This old servant understands. Zhen is asking you now. If Zhen asks you to do something, can you do it well? Xie Jin immediately expressed his attitude. Your Majesty, please give me your orders. Aren't there more than 10 ministers kneeling at the entrance of the throne room? Zhen wants you to investigate evidence of their corruption. If you can do it well, Zhen will let your East Faction Guards return to its former glory. If you can't, Zhen will create another West Faction Guards. Xie Jin knelt on one knee. After hearing Wang Zhong's words, Xie Jin's breathing became heavier. He could sense that today was the most important day of his life as a eunuch. If he did this task well, he would soar to the sky. If he didn't, then he would be in big trouble. However, he wasn't worried. This task wasn't very complicated. When he came in, He noticed that some of the ministers kneeling outside were not very powerful. It wasn't difficult to investigate them. The only difficulty was that he didn't have enough manpower. Don't worry. We know that there are too many people to investigate, and you won't be able to catch all of them. But it doesn't matter. We don't need you to investigate every single one of them. We only need 1 or 2 examples of them bullying the common people, embezzling bribes, and enough evidence to convict them. Hearing this, Xie Jin breathed a sigh of relief. To be honest, this mission was not difficult. He was very confident. Your Majesty, this old servant will definitely complete the task given by Your Majesty. First, go to the Imperial Household Department and get 100,000 taels of silver for your expenses. Now that all the disobedient members of the Internal Affairs Department had been dealt with, there was no need to worry about corruption for the time being. Thank you, Your Majesty. After everything was settled, a full moon appeared in the sky. Wang Zhong returned to Zhao Wan's bedroom early. Due to the many things that had happened recently, and Zhao Wan was such a good helper, Wang Zhong could not bear to let her get pregnant. Hence, at the last moment, Wang Zhong let her drink some hot soy milk to nourish her body. On the other hand, after He Taigao accepted Wang Zhong's mission, he rushed to the magistrate's prison without stopping. In the dark prison, one could faintly hear the cries of the prisoners. These cries came from the prisoners who had been tortured during the day. Everyone's flesh was lacerated, and their fingers and toes were bleeding. They were in a miserable state. However, in the deepest part of the prison, a strong man endured the pain and stared straight ahead. In front of him were 2 Yamen runners. Ever since he was locked up, these 2 Yamen runners had been causing trouble for him. Meng Ti, don't blame us for not being good enough. There are people above who want you dead. As lowly soldiers, we have no choice. One of them held a long whip and said as he swung it at Meng Ti. Papa. After 2 consecutive whips, the strong man's flesh was lacerated and there were even more bloody marks on his body. However, the burly man didn't utter a single word. Instead, he stared straight ahead. Compared to the pain on his body, his heart hurt more. The current emperor was muddle-headed and incompetent. The Zhao family army had made outstanding military achievements in the past, but now, they were suffering like this. His heart was cold. If he could do it all over again, he would definitely wake the emperor up. However, it was too late. He was about to be executed. Although his family had secretly told him that they had contacted the empress to save him, he did not think it was possible. Others did not know, but he had heard from the people in the court that the empress was not favored, and was even hated by the emperor. How could the emperor care about his affairs? My life is over, Meng Ti sighed. However, at this moment, footsteps were heard from outside. How dare you? How dare you abuse justice in prison? A sharp voice was heard. It was He Taigao. Who is it? The 2 Yamen runners who were whipping the man were shocked. When they saw who it was, their expressions changed. This eunuch was wearing an embroidered eunuch uniform. It was obvious that he was from the palace and his identity was not simple. In particular, He Taigao was accompanied by the prison warden who was serving this eunuch. Plop. The 2 men knelt down together. Greetings, eunuch. In the court, the eunuchs who worked for the emperor had a very high status. Ordinary jailers did not dare to offend them. Slap, 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 slap. He Taigao stepped forward and slapped the 2 jailers twice. The 2 jailers' cheeks were red and swollen. Why aren't you opening the prison door? Even though He Taigao called eunuchs a dog slave in front of Wang Zhong, that was because eunuchs were the emperor's servants. In front of outsiders, eunuchs were never easy to get along with. Some eunuchs with high status even had dark hearts and took pleasure in crippling people. Fortunately, He Taigao came this time to work for Wang Zhong. He did not dare to complicate things. The 2 men quickly opened the door. Meng Ti was surprised. Looking at the situation, this eunuch was here for him? General Meng Ti? That's me. May I know why you are looking for me? The empress told the emperor about your matter. The emperor felt that you were wronged, so he ordered me to take you away. After that, the emperor will personally try your case. Meng Ti, you're lucky. Ha ha. Meng Ti was ecstatic. A wise emperor, A wise emperor. He had cursed Wang Zhong behind his back. He did not expect that he was wrong. This one thanks His Majesty and eunuch Gong for saving my life. Stop talking. Let's go. He Taigao turned his head and shouted at the jailers. Stupid dogs. Why aren't you unlocking the cell? Yes, yes. The two jailers' faces turned pale, and they quickly went forward. After a night, Wang Zhong woke up early. Zhao Wan saw that Wang Zhong was up so early, and also woke up. Why doesn't the Empress sleep a little longer? Emperor, actually I always wake up early. Zhao Wan smiled gently. Oh, I learned martial arts when I was young. Father made me wake up early every day before dawn. Because of this, I was able to learn a few moves. Zhao Wan explained and then asked, why did you wake up early today? Don't you think it's a coincidence? I also want to learn martial arts. Your Majesty knows martial arts? I learned it when I was young. Recently, I felt that my body was weak, so I tried to practice. Why don't we spar? Okay, Your Majesty. Sorry for the offense. Haha, let's go. The two washed their faces and went to the courtyard. Zhao Wan learned military moves. These moves were not complicated, but they were all good moves to kill the enemy. Not only were they simple, but they were also effective. Wang Zhong practiced the moves that he learned in the past. They were wild and domineering. When he punched, the air would tremble. Your Majesty, take this. Zhao Wan struck with her palm. Wang Zhong's internal energy was generated in his dantian. He suddenly raised his qi and punched at Zhao Wan's chest. Zhao Wan was not willing to be outdone. She shouted and kicked. Bang bang bang, da-da-da. The two exchanged blows. Only then did Wang Zhong realize that Zhao Wan's skills were not bad. She was indeed a descendant of a general. Compared to Wang Zhong, Zhao Wan was even more surprised. Before joining the palace, she knew that the emperor did not learn martial arts. But now, it seemed that the emperor was much stronger than her. After a few moves, Zhao Wan was a little tired. Wang Zhong also stopped. Your Majesty's skills are not bad. I almost couldn't beat you. Your Majesty is laughing at me. Your Majesty's skills are comparable to the generals in the army. Zhao Wan was not flattering him. She was speaking from the bottom of her heart. Your Majesty. At this time, Feng Qingqing's voice came from outside. Your Majesty, Your Majesty, Your Majesty. How long have you been here? Wang Zhong frowned. Your Majesty. I saw Your Majesty and Your Majesty practicing at the door. I did not dare to disturb you, so I waited outside for 15 minutes. I don't want you to be sneaky in the future. Do you understand? Wang Zhong said unhappily. Feng Qingqing knows her mistake. Feng Qingqing said, feeling wronged. She could not understand why the emperor who used to dote on her had changed so much. He even liked martial arts now. Being with the emperor was like being with a tiger. Have you finished what I asked you to do? Previously, he asked Feng Qingqing to investigate the background of those who had bad intentions in the palace. He even asked Zhao Wan to investigate the secrets of the Empress Dowager. Zhao Wan was too straightforward and kind. She would be easily fooled by others. But if it was Feng Qingqing, this woman did not have this psychological barrier. Your Majesty, I have finished. You can tell this to the Empress. Feng Qingqing, talking to the Empress is like talking to me. Put away your little tricks. If I find out that you are up to something, it won't be as simple as banishing you to the cold palace. Although Feng Qingqing was capable, she liked to fight for the emperor's favor. He had to teach her a lesson from time to time. Feng Qingqing's heart trembled. She looked at Zhao Wan and said, I will definitely listen to the Empress. Similarly, if the Empress agrees to reinstate your position as a concubine, then reinstate it. If she doesn't agree, then don't think about it. After throwing these words down, Wang Zhong turned around and left. Feng Qingqing felt bitter. It seemed that she had to curry favor with Empress Zhao Wan in the future. Today, Wang Zhong did not go to the morning court as usual. He did not want to see a group of officials scolding him. He went to his imperial study and saw Meng Ti, who was rescued last night. Chapter 626. In the imperial study, Meng Ti looked around anxiously. Although the emperor saved him, he was still worried. After all, he had a criminal record. If the emperor wanted to save him, he would feel pressured. The emperor has arrived. A shout came from beside him. Meng Ti quickly stood up and faced the door respectfully. A tall man wearing a dragon robe walked in. Meng Ti immediately knelt down. Sinner Meng Ti greets the emperor. Long live the emperor. Rise. Thank you, emperor. Meng Ti stood up anxiously. He realized that although the emperor had a pale face, he was not angry. He was a dragon among men. This was a wise emperor. Wang Zhong also looked at Meng Ti. Although Meng Ti was older than him, he still looked young. His body was very strong and his muscles were bulging. He was obviously a martial arts expert. If this kind of person was placed on the battlefield, he would definitely be a fierce general. Although Wang Zhong was designing guns, he was only going to use them as his personal guards. There were two reasons. First, it was impossible to design a lot of guns. Therefore, he had to give priority to his personal guards. Second, the design of guns was difficult, but it was also easy. Some skilled craftsmen only needed to look at the internal structure to be able to imitate it. Therefore, Wang Zhong was worried that before he had full control of the country, he did not want this kind of deadly weapon to be imitated. This kind of weapon, as well as the gunpowder, saltpeter, and even the coal for making iron, could only belong to the country. This was the only way to prevent the rebel army from having guns. Therefore, on the frontline battlefield, it was still a cold weapon battle. A general like Meng Ti was very useful. Meng Ti, I have heard about your matter from the Empress. However, I want to hear from you personally what happened. Wang Zhong said. If you are really wronged, I promise you that I will uphold justice for you. Since His Majesty had spoken, it meant that he was really going to help him. For a moment, Meng Ti was so excited that his whole body trembled. Thank you, Emperor. It was like this. What Meng Ti said was the same as what Zhao Wan said. After Meng Ti was removed from his position in the army, he was arrested not long after he returned to his hometown. He was charged with corruption when he was in the army. After he finished speaking, the dignified iron-blooded man suddenly kowtowed. Your Majesty, this sinner has wholeheartedly served the country and has never been corrupted or accepted bribes. Moreover, this sinner did not manage the accounts when he was in the army. So how could he have been corrupted? Please investigate, Your Majesty. Meng Ti, don't worry. I won't let a single bad person off. Those who framed you, I will definitely teach them a lesson. After chatting for a while, Wang Zhong looked at Meng Ti's serious injuries and said to He Taigao, Elder Companion, arrange for Meng Ti to recuperate. Arrange for someone to go to Magistrate Lu Pingying and pass on the imperial edict. Tell him that I will personally investigate this case in 3 days. Tell him to prepare. This old servant will do it right away. Part of the reason why Wang Zhong kept the 3 days was to collect evidence of Lu Pingying's crime of abusing his position for personal gain. Over the past few days, he had learned that Lu Pingying, as the magistrate, had not been idle at all. She had arrested many generals for various crimes. One had to know that these people were all experts in war and were loyal to the imperial family. Suppressing these military officials like this was truly despicable. The news of Meng Ti being rescued was naturally known by Lu Pingying. For a moment, her expression was very ugly. This emperor's hands are reaching too far. He actually sent people into the prison to take someone away. Master, what do we do now? The housekeeper who came to report asked. This is bad. I don't know what's wrong with the emperor. He's getting involved in everything. It's possible that other than Meng Ti's case, the emperor will also get involved in other cases. Lu Pingying was very worried. For so long, he had been helping Lu Zhongbua get rid of dissidents. In order to get rid of the soldiers of the imperial family, they had secretly gotten rid of who knew how many people from the military. Thinking about it, he decided to go to Lu Zhongbua's home and ask what to do. Lu Zhongbua had not been living well recently. The people he could use were losing one after another, and the emperor's power was getting stronger and stronger. He had also heard that the East faction that had not been used and was on the verge of collapse had started to recruit people again. The East faction supervisor Xie Jin, had even started to investigate some of the officials close to him. He understood that the good days of the past were gone. If this continued, he would be dead for sure. Right now he had used 2 moves. First, assassination. It was a pity that this move did not have any effect. Right now, the imperial palace was airtight. He guessed that the emperor was already suspicious of him. Second, he had a group of officials kneel in the throne room and force Wang Zhong to let go of the officials that he had captured. The fact that this move did not have any effect was out of his expectations. It had to be known that if something happened to so many officials, the world would be in chaos. But the emperor did not seem worried. At this time, Lu Pingying asked to see him. "Let him in," Lu Zhongbua said to the housekeeper. "Prime Minister Lu, Prime Minister Lu." Lu Pingying walked very quickly. When he came in front of Lu Zhongbua, he anxiously said, "It's not good." In the past, Lu Pingying would always exchange a few words with Lu Zhongbua. But today he was very anxious. When he came over, Lu Pingying told him about how Wang Zhong had saved Mengti. "The emperor wants to take back control of the military." Lu Zhongbua's expression was ugly. "Prime Minister Lu, what do we do now? If this continues, our black hats." What's the rush?" Lu Zhongbua snorted. "He has military power. So many of us officials have not lived in vain. He has soldiers. Do you think we don't? Let him try Mengti's case. Let him think that you don't dare to do anything. As for me, I will let the emperor know how powerful I am. When the time comes, we will." Lu Pingying's eyes widened. In the end, he nodded heavily. "I will rely on you, Prime Minister Lu." "No problem." 2 days passed. Today, Wang Zhong did not go to the morning court because he was not feeling well. "Your Majesty," Zhao Wan leaned against Wang Zhong and said softly, "I heard that those officials have been kneeling outside the throne room for a long time. I am a little worried." "Haha, Empress, I will deal with them today." Wang Zhong sneered. These officials wanted to be the first ones to stand out. Then, he would fulfill their wish. Actually, Wang Zhong also felt that these officials were hilarious. They did not have military power, yet they dared to force the emperor to abdicate. In the past, the emperor was really a pig. He could even be blinded by this. "Your Majesty is very busy and overworked. Be careful of your body. I asked the kitchen to prepare a tonic soup. Your Majesty, please drink it." "Thank you, Empress." Wang Zhong nodded. Then, he drank the tonic soup with Zhao Wan. Instantly, he felt energized. Looking at Zhao Wan's pretty face, Wang Zhong smiled. "Empress, I will see you tonight. Take care, Your Majesty." After leaving Wanhou Palace, He Taigao came to report that Xie Jin wanted to see him. Wang Zhong went to the imperial study. Xie Jin knelt and said, "This old servant greets Your Majesty. May Your Majesty be blessed." "No need for formalities." Wang Zhong waved his hand. He was impatient with the servant's complicated etiquette. "Eunuch Xie, have you found evidence of the official's crimes? If you haven't, you don't need to come find me." Xie Jin chuckled. He took out a small booklet and respectfully handed it to Wang Zhong. "Your Majesty, this is evidence of officials while forcing a commoner, surnamed Li, to be his concubine. It was a pity that the commoner surnamed Li refused. In the end, officials broke her leg and sold her to a brothel. Is that so?" Wang Zhong frowned. "It is absolutely true. To be honest, it is very difficult for this old servant to find evidence of corruption because time is too tight. However, it is too easy to find evidence of them bullying commoners." Back then, Wang Zhong said that he did not need to find all the evidence of these officials' crimes. He only needed to find 1 or 2. Thus, Xie Jin was very smart and only found the ones that were easy to investigate. These officials did not have clean hands. They were not satisfied with some money and often bullied commoners. Xie Jin arranged for the eunuchs under his command to investigate casually and found a lot of things. "Your Majesty, this is evidence of official Huang forcefully occupying the fields of dozens of commoners. These commoners had their fields taken away. Not only were they unable to complain, many of them were also injured by official Huang's lackeys. It is truly a heinous crime. This is evidence of official Duan's crimes. He was drunk and forcefully robbed a merchant's wife. Because the merchant refused, the merchant was sent to prison the next day. It is a pity that his wife is still in official Duan's house. I don't know how badly she is being bullied. As Xiejin finished speaking, Wang Zhong's face became darker and darker. He originally thought that these officials were just greedy for money. He did not expect that they would bully commoners like this. These commoners were Wang Zhong's people. If they were bullied like this, the people would rebel against Wang Zhong. I understand. Did you bring those people? Wang Zhong asked. This old servant followed your majesty's orders and brought all the victims out. Currently, the officials outside do not know about this, but your majesty knows. Xiejin said respectfully. Thank you for your hard work. Wang Zhong nodded approvingly. The ancient eunuchs were indeed useful. Xiejin was flattered. Working for your majesty is what this old servant should do. It is not hard. Wang Zhong smiled and stood up with his hands behind his back. It is time to meet those officials. Wang Zhong couldn't help but recall the words spoken by an emperor of the Ming dynasty before his death. Civil officials can be killed. Why did he say that all civil officials could be killed? Because since ancient times, those who played with power were all civil officials. They said that they were benevolent, righteous, and moral. But in reality, they were more evil than hooligans. Because no matter how evil a hooligan was, he was evil in the open. But these people were evil in the dark. Those who did not know would think that they were noble. It was also because of this that the previous emperors thought too highly of these civil officials. They did not dare to act against them for fear of affecting the country. Little did they know that these civil officials were the ones who affected the country. Wang Zhong did not have such concerns now, because compared to worrying about the thoughts of these civil officials, Wang Zhong was more worried about the people's hearts. Whoever wins the hearts of the people controls the country. Chapter 627. Seeing that Wang Zhong was preparing to deal with the ministers, He Taigao couldn't help but worry. He had watched Wang Zhong walk step by step to such a good situation. He was worried that Wang Zhong would suddenly take too big a step and ruin the good situation. That would be troublesome. Thinking of this, He Taigao couldn't help but say, Your Majesty, there are too many ministers kneeling outside this time. Great friend, are you worried that I won't handle it well and cause a stalemate? This old servant is also worried for your Majesty. Haha, don't worry. I'm responsible for the people, not these worthless ministers. Those who win the hearts of the people will win the world. Great friend, what do you think? Those who win the hearts of the people will win the world. Suddenly, He Taigao's eyes lit up. Wonderful, wonderful. As long as the people don't panic, there's nothing to worry about. Your Majesty is still the best. After He Taigao finished speaking, he realized that Wang Zhong was already far away. He hurriedly ran over. Your Majesty, wait for this old servant. Safety first. There were fewer people in the imperial court this time. The reason was simple. Many of the ministers were kneeling outside the throne room and refused to get up. His Majesty is too disappointing. So many ministers are kneeling and begging to see him, but he won't even see them. Sai, how can we work for him? If he still doesn't come today, this old man would rather retire and return to his hometown. Together, let's go together. Yes, retire and return to your hometown. His Majesty is stubborn. If we continue to do this, we'll be spurned by the world sooner or later. These people were naturally from Lu Zhongbuo's faction. Lu Zhongbuo stood to the side and smiled. Luo Zhao, let's see how you deal with this situation. With so many ministers refusing to do it, this great country will really fall into chaos. When that time comes, let's see how you deal with it. Only Li Mingsai's faction remained silent. Li Mingsai's eyes were filled with worry. When he came, many ministers had decided to jointly submit a memorial. Since the founding of the country, this had never happened before. At that time, even an incapable ruler would have a hard time. Just as he was thinking about how to help Wang Zhong came in. His Majesty has arrived. Long live His Majesty. Although they had countless grievances in their hearts, they still had the necessary etiquette. It was just that when they shouted, their expressions were obviously very angry, as if they were going to sacrifice themselves for justice. Wang Zhong took in the expressions of these people and felt disdain in his heart. Each and every one of you is acting as if it's true. Wait till I bring out the evidence of your crimes one by one. Let's see what you'll say. When he walked, killing intent surged in Wang Zhong's eyes. There can be no construction without destruction. At this time, don't be afraid of others calling you a tyrant. Instead, let them know that I am a tyrant. However, in the eyes of Lu Zhongbua and the other henchmen, Wang Zhong's behavior was successful. The emperor really went to the entrance of the throne room. He was probably worried that they would really refuse, so he went to meet those officials. For a moment, the group of officials felt refreshed. So what if he was the emperor? He was still defeated by Prime Minister Lu. Prime Minister Lu was indeed clever. The little prince was no match for him. While LV Dang's people looked proud, Li Mingcai's henchmen looked helpless. The emperor was still too inexperienced. With just a few words, he couldn't withstand the pressure from LV Dang's side, and was ready to compromise. However, when they thought about it, if they were in the emperor's position, they would probably do the same. After all, there were too many people on Lu Dang's side. If they all attacked at the same time, would the emperor really kill them all? If that was the case, the world would be in chaos before the next day. Wang Zhong saw the look in their eyes. He was quite disappointed with Li Mingcai's people. Although Li Mingcai was more loyal than Lu Zhongbua, he was too weak and could not be used. After Wang Zhong got rid of Lu Zhongbua, Li Mingcai could retire and return to his hometown. Otherwise, he would be a dog in the manger. When he came to the entrance of the throne room, more than a dozen officials were kneeling on the ground. If this happened in history, it would be a big blow to the emperor's reputation. However, Wang Zhong did not care. He was already scolded as a fatuous emperor. He did not mind being scolded for a while. When they saw Wang Zhong coming, the officials were all refreshed. However, there was a lot of resentment in their eyes. Swadarin, you have been kneeling for so many days. It's really hard on you. Wang Zhong opened his mouth. He did not call the officials. Why was that? He let the officials figure it out themselves. Swadarin was not old. He was only in his 40s. He kowtowed and replied, I have been serving the emperor and the country wholeheartedly. I have been kneeling for a few days. It is not worth mentioning. I only hope that the emperor can take back the order, so that the people will not be convinced. Oh, it seems that you are really loyal. Wang Zhong smiled and reached out. He Taigao sensibly handed over the evidence that Xie Jin had found. Wang Zhong read the evidence and said, Swadarin, you said that you have been serving the emperor and my country wholeheartedly. However, why have I heard some bad things about you? Swadarin did not know that Wang Zhong had secretly found evidence of his crimes. He said with a strong sense of righteousness, Your Majesty, I have served the country for many years. I have never made any mistakes. Your Majesty, please understand. Wang Zhong's tone suddenly became cold. Is that so? Then I will tell you something disgraceful. A year and a half ago, you, as an official, went back to your hometown to worship your ancestors. You took a fancy to a woman named Li in your hometown. You wanted to take her as your concubine, but she did not agree. You were so cruel and crazy that you broke her legs. That was not all. You even sold her to a brothel, right? Your Majesty, this, Swadarin's expression changed. This was something that happened in his hometown. He was far away from the emperor. How did the emperor know? At this time, he naturally did not dare to admit it. He hurriedly replied, Your Majesty, someone is slandering me. Wang Zhong said coldly, Is that so? Then do you think I should investigate it? Swadarin was speechless. This matter had caused a lot of trouble in his hometown. That woman named Li was too wild. In the end, he broke her legs in a fit of anger. That woman still insulted him. Under the instigation of a group of henchmen, he sold her to a brothel. Now that he thought about it, more than a year had passed. However, many people in his hometown knew about this matter. The county magistrate was afraid of his high position, and did not dare to ask about it. Thus, the matter was left unsettled. Now that the emperor wanted to investigate this matter, he would be in trouble. Swadarin, it seems that you also want to know the truth. I will satisfy your wish. Men, bring that woman named Li here. Wang Zhong shouted. At this time Swadaran could no longer kneel. His whole body went limp on the ground. At the side, 2 eunuchs supported a girl who was limping but had a delicate and pretty face as she walked up. This humble girl, Li Xiaohua, greets your majesty. Li Xiaohua was just an ordinary girl. Naturally, she did not know any etiquette. Moreover, her legs were not well. Wang Zhong did not blame her. He said, give Li Xiaohua a seat. After Li Xiaohua sat down, she stared at Swadaran and suddenly cried, Your Majesty, Swadaran broke my legs in order to rape me. With that said, Li Xiaohua pulled up the bottom of her pants. Her 2 legs were clearly deformed. Not only that, he also sold me to a brothel. My poor father was beaten to death in order to save me. Your Majesty, please uphold justice for me. Chapter 628. The ministers had different thoughts when they heard Li Xiaohua's heart-wrenching words. Those with a bit of conscience scolded Magistrate Zhua in their hearts. Normally, he looked down on others and acted like a good person at the drop of a hat. Who would have thought that he was actually such a person behind the scenes, causing others to suffer so much? Those who didn't have a conscience lamented that Master Zhua was really dirty. If they were in his shoes, they would have killed Li Xiaohua a long time ago. Everyone has seen it. Now that the evidence and witnesses are conclusive, the former emperor has decreed that anyone who oppresses the common people to become an official will be imprisoned at least, and in serious cases, their property will be confiscated, and they will be executed. Lord Zhua, am I right? Master Zhua was scared out of his wits. Your Majesty, please calm down. I was wronged. Humph, you're still so stubborn. Guards, Master Zhua bullied the people and harmed innocent people. He's guilty of the most heinous crimes. Take off his official hat and robes, and throw him into the prison of the East Faction Guards. The prison of the East Faction Guards was not an ordinary prison. Strictly speaking, it was used to lock up people who were guilty of treason. Not only were the punishments there more cruel and painful than ordinary prisons, but it was also impossible to find any connections to visit the prisoners there. After all, the East Faction Guards were directly responsible to the emperor, so no one would give them any face. Master Zhua's expression changed drastically. Your Majesty, please spare me. Please spare me. Wang Zhong waved his hand, and 2 imperial guards stepped forward and dragged Master Zhua, who was still crying, away. The other ministers' faces twitched when they saw this. If Wang Zhong had arrested someone for no reason, these people would have jumped up and pointed at Wang Zhong and cursed him. However, they couldn't do that now. Master Huang. When Wang Zhong called out Master Huang's name, Master Huang, who was still kneeling on the ground, was stunned. I'm here. Didn't you scold me for causing unrest among the people if I continue doing this? However, I heard that what you did made the people even more uneasy. Your Majesty, I was wrong. Master Huang obviously knew that Wang Zhong must have secretly investigated some evidence of their crimes, so that he could punish them. He felt extremely regretful for taking the lead. Therefore, he simply admitted his mistake and hoped that Wang Zhong would be lenient. Unfortunately, how could Wang Zhong let them off? Wang Zhong didn't even bother with him as he said, "Bring him out." Soon dozens of civilians were brought out. Wang Zhong pointed at them and said, "Lord Huang, I heard that you have thousands of acres of fertile land in your hometown, 3 mansions, and dozens of wives and concubines. I am very curious. Before you became an official, you were just a poor scholar. How did you earn so much money and land in just a few decades? Lord Huang, why don't you teach me?" Official Huang was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. "Your Majesty, this official is guilty. Please forgive me, Your Majesty." At this moment, he was speaking in a submissive manner. Where was his previous unyielding character? He was simply no different from a petty person. This was the strength of a scholar. These people originally had happy families and lived happily. Their families lived peacefully. However, because of you, they have lost their source of income because of you. Don't you think you deserve to die 1,000 times over? This official is willing to return the land and money. Please have mercy on me, Your Majesty." It's too late. Guards, official Huang bullied the people and took their land. He has caused the people to be angry and have no way to make a living. This is truly a heinous crime. Strip him of his official robes and send him to the prison of the East Faction Depot. Yes. Then Wang Zhong shouted again. Bring the next person up. The person who came up was a middle-aged woman. When the kneeling official Duan saw this person, he was so scared that he fell to the ground. Because he knew her. That day, when he was drunk, he passed by a house and saw that this woman was very beautiful. He foolishly went over to take liberties with her. After he succeeded, her husband came to cause trouble. In the end, he used some methods to send the husband to the prison. After the woman got tired of playing with him for a few days, she was chased out. He didn't expect that she would appear here. Your Majesty, please have mercy. Your Majesty, this official knows his mistake. The woman also knelt down. I beg your Majesty to uphold justice for this woman. I beg your Majesty to save my husband. Wang Zhong said. Don't worry. Jin will definitely uphold justice for you. Official Duan, since you have already confessed, Jin won't say any more. Guards, take him to the prison of the East Faction Depot. Prime Minister Liu, save me. Prime Minister Liu, save me. Official Duan was the closest to Prime Minister Liu. In a moment of desperation, he hurriedly asked for help. Wang Zhong turned his head to look at Liu Zhongbua. He sneered in his heart. Jin will pull out your claws one by one. Let's see what you can do. Wang Zhong was now certain that Liu Zhongbua didn't dare to shed all pretense of cordiality. After all, if they shed all pretense of cordiality, the chances of him losing were too high. So what if he had a lot of money? Without soldiers, it was useless. In the past, the emperor was a coward and didn't dare to use soldiers to suppress him. Liu Zhongbua knew that he couldn't not stand up at this time. Otherwise, the other officials would be frightened by Wang Zhong's actions. Your Majesty, although these officials committed serious crimes, there are many suspicious points in the case. This official thinks that there is no need to send them to the prison of the East Faction Depot. As long as they weren't sent to the prison, he had a way to get them out. At the very least, he could give them a sum of money and run away. Then Liu Zhongbua continued. In addition, even if these officials didn't make any contributions, they still worked hard. If they are sent to the prison, their relatives won't be able to see them. Your Majesty, please reconsider. Wang Zhong stared at Liu Zhongbua and said, the witnesses and evidence are all here. What other suspicious points are there? But Prime Minister Liu, you reminded me. It's not good for the families of these officials to not see them. Fortunately, Jin suddenly remembered that their crimes are so serious. Just sending them to the prison is not enough. Guards! This old servant is here. He Taigao walked over. Order the East Faction Depot to search their homes. Take their families to the prison to see what happens. Putong! The remaining officials all collapsed on the ground. Liu Zhongbua's expression changed. The emperor did this on purpose. It was better if he didn't say it. Now that he said it, he wanted to search their homes. Wang Zhong sneered in his heart. He knew that Liu Zhongbua would plead for mercy, so he deliberately didn't say that he would search their homes. In fact, whether Liu Zhongbua said it or not, he would search their homes. After all, these officials were all very rich. If he didn't search their homes for the new year? Alright, who else is dissatisfied? Wang Zhong glanced at all the officials and said with a smile, whoever is dissatisfied can say it. Zhen is not unreasonable. If you really have an opinion, Zhen will understand. Of course, the premise is that what you say is the same as what you did. The faces of the group of officials were not good. Among the officials present, which one of them was clean? Even the so-called loyal official Li Mingkai did not dare to say that he was clean. Therefore, they were afraid that they would be implicated. For a moment, no one dared to say anything. However, just because they didn't say anything, it didn't mean that Wang Zhong wouldn't say anything. Looking at the kneeling officials, Wang Zhong continued to call out their names. Those who were called out all had pale faces. Without exception, these people were all sent to the prison. Those with serious crimes had their homes searched. In fact, Wang Zhong didn't say anything. After the trial, it wouldn't just be searching their homes. In the future, he would open many clothing factories and mines. He would need a lot of manpower. The men in these people's families would be a good source of labor. The women would be sent to the brothel to make money for him. He had already thought of an imperial edict. The men would be demoted to slaves and the women would be prostitutes. After a certain number of years, they would be released. This was his punishment. What? Not willing to work? Then die. Soon, the dozens of officials who were kneeling were all taken away. The remaining people secretly wiped their sweat. They thought that fortunately, they were not like these people who were instigated by Prime Minister Liu and foolishly forced the emperor. Otherwise, they would be the ones to search their homes. While secretly rejoicing, these people were actually very worried. The emperor's methods were vicious. It was completely different from before. Their butts were not clean. If this continued, who could guarantee that they would be able to sleep peacefully? Dear officials, who else has something to say? Wang Zhong said lightly. No one really spoke. Even Lu Zhongbo didn't say anything. Because he knew that it was useless to say anything now. The emperor already regarded him as a thorn in his side. Killing intent appeared in Lu Zhongbo's eyes. A vicious plan appeared in Lu Zhongbo's mind. The assassins can't kill you. The military power is not in my hands. I really can't do anything. But this old man can still cause chaos in the world. In fact, Lu Zhongbo chose this path because he only wanted to make money. Only when his wealth reached a certain level did he start to recruit people. Therefore, he was actually a vested interest in the world's peace. He didn't want the world to fall into chaos. Chaos in the world would be very inconvenient for him to make money. If a true son of heaven appeared, then as a minister of the previous dynasty, he would be executed. But now it was not up to him. If the emperor didn't die, he would die. Today, the news of Wang Zhong arresting dozens of officials in the imperial court quickly spread throughout the imperial capital. The news even spread to the surroundings of the imperial capital. Originally, Wang Zhong had only arrested corrupt officials, which was a great thing. But who knew that the news would become more and more outrageous? It said that the emperor killed the loyal. Those officials only proposed to reduce taxes, but the emperor arrested them and even wanted to search their homes. It was for the sake of pleasure. Not only that, the emperor also violated filial piety and put the empress dowager under house arrest. In order to indulge in pleasure, the emperor spent a large amount of money to build a harem. The more the news spread, the more outrageous it became. In the end, it was even said that the emperor wanted each place to offer 100 beauties, and the taxes began to increase. Naturally, this news was deliberately spread by Lu Zhongbo. He believed that soon, everyone in the world would be cursing Wang Zhong. When that time came, the world would be in chaos. He, who was already prepared, would be able to take advantage of the chaos to take over the world. Of course, this was a very big risk, and he didn't want to be the first one to stand out. Wang Zhong, who lived in the depths of the palace, did not know this news. The next day, Xie Jin came to see the emperor. Emperor. Yes, eunuch Xie is here. Let's go to the magistrate's office. General Mengti's case was going to be solved today, so Wang Zhong prepared to go over earlier. In any case, he had already informed the prefectural magistrate a few days ago. He believed that the prefectural magistrate had already made the necessary preparations. It was better that they weren't prepared. He could take the opportunity to beat them up again. But this time Xie Jin brought a piece of bad news. Chapter 629. Your Majesty, the spies I sent out today have noticed something. Many people are spreading bad news about you, Your Majesty. Xie Jin lowered his head and said respectfully, Let's talk as we walk. Wang Zhong was indifferent. He would deal with whatever came his way. Why would he be afraid of a few ministers who did not have any military power? After that, Xie Jin told him about how the common people were cursing the emperor. Wang Zhong was secretly shocked when he heard this. What? The rumors are that the ministers went to jail because their taxes were reduced? I built a harem for enjoyment? Ha ha. Ha ha ha. Not bad. My imperial uncle is indeed extraordinary to be able to come up with such a plan. Your Majesty, Don't let your guard down. It'll be troublesome if the people are angered by this news. He Taigao said worriedly. You don't have to worry. I already have a way to protect my reputation. Wang Zhong did not say much. He brought the two eunuchs, He Taigao and Xie Jin, as well as a group of imperial guards and guards, out of the palace. On this day, the prefect Lu Pingying, who had been waiting anxiously, finally saw Wang Zhong. The sun was scorching hot today. The huge entourage of the emperor was marching on the streets. This was Wang Zhong's first time coming to the bustling streets outside the palace. He could tell that the people in the capital were living a good life. The clothes they wore and the food they ate were all from wealthy families. The further they went, the smaller the houses were, and the more poor people there were. Wang Zhong sighed emotionally when he saw this. It seemed like there was still a long way to go to make the great Yin dynasty stronger. Not only did he have to deal with the treacherous ministers in the imperial court, but he also had to think of ways to increase the income of the people. The wind was strong outside, and the weather was slightly cold. Wang Zhong also noticed that some children were wearing thin clothes. They were staring at him curiously with their big eyes. Son, don't look. The mother pressed her son's head. She did not dare to look at Wang Zhong. This was the majesty of the emperor. The nation's strength is still too weak. Wang Zhong sighed softly. He had been studying the map of the Great Yin dynasty for the past few days. The Great Yin dynasty was vast. It seemed powerful, but it was also surrounded by powerful enemies. At this moment, his Great Yin dynasty was like a fragrant steamed bun. If the powerful enemies nearby took a bite out of it, they would be able to deal a heavy blow to Great Yin dynasty. According to his understanding, ever since Zhao Wan's father died, the Zhao family army had been disbanded. He didn't have a strong army to use. On the surface, he had hundreds of thousands of troops at the border, but he didn't know how many he could actually use. This was because he had already discovered something very realistic. The original owner, Luo Zhao, did not know how to command the border guards. In other words, if the garrison rebelled, there was nothing he could do to keep them in check. The 20,000 imperial guards were enough to fend off rebels, but they were far from enough to quell a rebellion. Rebuilding the army would require a large sum of money. Silver, silver, silver. Wang Zhong felt more and more of a headache. Soon, the mighty procession stopped outside the magistrate's office. She bowed and walked to the door. She shouted towards the door. The emperor has arrived. She was indeed the little eunuch chosen by He Taigao. Just from this shout, one could see the strength of his internal energy. Immediately, a group of people filed out of the office, including the surrounding people. Everyone knelt down and shouted in unison, "Greetings to the emperor. Long live the emperor." To be honest, Wang Zhong wasn't a person with a strong sense of vanity. However, when he saw this scene, he was filled with emotions. No wonder everyone wanted to be the emperor. The taste was indeed different. Immediately, he shouted with dignity, "Rise." "Thank you, emperor." Everyone stood up. Lu Pingying, who was at the entrance of the office, nervously walked over. Perhaps because of his guilty conscience, he didn't dare to raise his head to look at Wang Zhong. "Emperor, I have prepared some evidence regarding the criminal Meng Ti. I am waiting for you to see it," Lu Pingying said carefully. Wang Zhong nodded and shouted to Lu Pingying, "I am going to open the court for a public trial. Bring everything to the city wall square. I want my people to see that in the future, princes will be punished the same as commoners when they break the law." Currently, there were rumors about him murdering loyal subjects. As the saying went, rumors could be spread with one's mouth. Refuting them would take a lot of effort. It was useless to refute these rumors. What Wang Zhong wanted to do was to conduct a public trial. Only by letting the people see for themselves would they know that he was a wise ruler. Naturally, this was the first method. The world was too big. It was impossible for him to travel to every place. The second method was to learn from the United States. He wanted to learn from their powerful propaganda. He wanted to establish the first Great Yin Dynasty newspaper and spread the news about how he governed the country and how he empathized with the people. The United States relied on its powerful media to gain the trust of the people of other countries. However, The problem now was that the ancient paper-making technique was not developed. Paper was too expensive for ordinary people. Hence, Wang Zhong planned to improve the paper-making technique in the future, so that everyone could afford paper. When that happened, the great Yin dynasty's media would flourish. Princes will be punished the same as commoners when they break the law. As soon as he said that, the people around him started whispering among themselves. Everyone had an expression of disbelief on their faces. How was this possible? Wang Zhong smiled and said nothing. As for Lu Pingying, she was led away by He Taigao to work. After working for more than 2 hours, Wang Zhong arrived at the huge plaza under the city walls. The scorching sun hung high in the sky. Wang Zhong sat on the city walls, as the people below looked at him curiously. He was not in a hurry. However, He Taigao and Xie Jin were anxious. There were too many people around. What if there were assassins? Previously, the two of them had tried to persuade Wang Zhong, but Wang Zhong had rejected them. Bring Mengdi here, Wang Zhong shouted. Mengdi was still a criminal. He was chained up with bracelets and ankles. However, he seemed to be in a much better state compared to when he was in prison. After Mengdi bowed, Lu Pingying walked over and stood in front of Wang Zhong. She respectfully handed over the evidence of Mengdi's crimes. Your Majesty, this is the criminal Mengdi's crime. When Mengdi was the general of the left staff vanguard, he embezzled the wages of hundreds of soldiers. In total, he embezzled hundreds of thousands of taels of silver. This contains the testimonies of the soldiers whose wages were embezzled. Your Majesty, please take a look. Wang Zhong casually glanced at it and lost interest. He said faintly, this content is just the evidence drafted by ordinary people. Any novel writer would be better than this. This? Lu Pingying's eyes flashed. It was just as she had guessed. The emperor said this to protect Lu Pingying. Your Majesty, this is the evidence that I collected after interviewing many of Mengdi's former subordinates. It will not be wrong, Lu Pingying explained patiently. Is that so? Wang Zhong looked at Lu Pingying and said, actually, I asked General Mengdi to take these taels of silver. It's just that it's an important military matter, and unrelated people can't know about it. That's why people misunderstood. Your Majesty, Lu Pingying was stunned. He originally thought that Wang Zhong would have various ways to help Mengdi get away with his crimes. He had prepared a lot of evidence of Mengdi's corruption. However, he did not expect that Wang Zhong would use this as an excuse. This made him feel powerless. Magistrate Lu, I didn't expect you to investigate this. It seems that Mengdi was wronged, Wang Zhong sighed. Your Majesty, Mengdi's still committed. At this moment, Lu Pingying's son suddenly stood up and spoke. However, before he could finish, Wang Zhong stared at him coldly and said, who are you? Did I allow you to speak? Lu Pingying quickly said, Your Majesty, this is this subject's son, Lu Liang. Lu Liang quickly knelt down. This subject, Lu Liang, has disturbed Your Majesty. I deserve 10,000 deaths. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. I hate people who don't follow the rules. I should have sentenced you to death, but since you are Magistrate Lu's son, I will let you go. Lu Pingying heaved a sigh of relief. However, Wang Zhong's next words made his heart clench. However, you can avoid the death penalty, but you can't escape punishment. You will be punished 20 times. Eunuch Xie. This old servant is here. Xie Jin walked over. Magistrate Lu's son, Lu Liang, dared to talk back to me. He will be punished 20 times. Carry out immediately. Since he had already decided to punish Lu Pingying, Wang Zhong did not want to be polite with him. As you wish. Xie Jin turned to look at Lu Liang. With a wave of his hand, 2 guards subdued Xie Jin. Beat him. With Xie Jin's order, the 2 guards began to fight. Lu Liang was beaten until he kept screaming. One had to know that this kind of flogging was extremely painful when it hit a person's body. 10 floggings could cause a person's skin to split open, let alone 20 floggings. Your Majesty, spare me, spare me. Lu Liang cried and shouted. Unfortunately, Wang Zhong did not pay any attention to him. Lu Pingying's expression was ugly. He did not dare to make a sound, but in his heart, he hated Wang Zhong to the core. Magistrate Liu, today's matter has been dealt with. Let's talk about you. I accidentally found out that your Liu family has 20 shops in this town, 2 restaurants and 2 brothels each. You have more than 30 beautiful wives and concubines. Magistrate Liu, you have more beautiful wives and concubines than I do. Put on. Liu Pingying kneeled on the ground. Your Majesty, this is what this subject earned from doing business. If it was from doing business, I would not make things difficult for you. However, someone has complained to me, saying that you took over someone else's shop. As he spoke, a middle-aged man was brought forward. This commoner, Wang Deming, pays respect to your Majesty. Wang Deming, tell me what happened to you. Yes. Wang Deming pointed at Liu Pingying and began to narrate. This Wang Deming was naturally one of the commoners who was bullied by Liu Pingying. However, he used to have a good life. His family had some money and business. After his son provoked Liu Pingying found an excuse to take over his shop. Wang Deming did not dare to cause trouble, so he took this loss. This matter caused an uproar at that time. Coincidentally, Xie Jin found out about it, so he brought people to find Wang Deming and asked him to come forward and identify Liu Pingying. Since the emperor had come to find him, Wang Deming was naturally 100% willing. Thus, today's scene occurred. The truth has been found out. Magistrate Liu Pingying holds a high position and an important position. Not only does he not empathize with the suffering of the commoners, he also competes with the commoners. He is insatiably greedy and oppresses the commoners. He is truly guilty of the most heinous crimes. Have the East faction guards investigate Liu Pingying's entire family's property. Before Wang Zhong could finish, Liu Pingying suddenly pulled out his sword and charged at Wang Zhong. Dog Emperor, I'll kill you. Chapter 630. Dog Emperor, I'll kill you. No one had thought that Liu Pingying would be so bold as to assassinate the emperor. In fact, this was the plan that Liu Pingying and Liu Zhongbua had prepared after their discussion that day. If Wang Zhong did not intend to deal with him, Liu Pingying would only ask for stability and would not do anything. However, if Wang Zhong wanted to deal with him, he could only use this method. However, after the event, he would at most be arrested. But Liu Xiang would take the opportunity to seize power and establish another emperor. How dare you? He Taigao and Xie Jin exclaimed simultaneously. This Liu Pingying could be considered to have a bit of martial arts. Once she made her move, the tip of her sword directly pierced towards Wang Zhong's heart. No matter how strong He Taigao and Xie Jin were, it was too late. However, Wang Zhong's gaze was calm as he looked at the incoming sword. Suddenly, he threw the teacup in his hand. Swish, swish, swish. The teacup hit Liu Pingying's face and slowed him down. He Taigao and Xie Jin were both stunned. Based on what Wang Zhong had just shown, it would take at least 5 to 6 years of cultivation to be able to use it. When did the emperor learn martial arts? With no time to think, He Taigao finally arrived in front of Wang Zhong. Guards, protect me. Xie Jin, He Shi and the other eunuchs rushed in front of Liu Pingying. Facing so many experts from the inner palace, how could Liu Pingying withstand them? She was knocked to the ground in a few moves. Don't kill him. Wang Zhong stopped the group of eunuchs. Liu Pingying's face was filled with fear. He had calculated everything, but he never thought that the emperor would know martial arts. If he didn't know martial arts, even if he was caught, the emperor would be dead already. Now that he had plotted to murder the emperor, he would have to confiscate his property. Great companion, draft the decree. Looking at the terrified Liu Pingying, Wang Zhong thought to himself, I was just worried that I couldn't find an excuse to deal with you. Great. Now your family is also in trouble. Magistrate Liu Pingying, you offended your superiors and attempted to assassinate me. You have committed a heinous crime. Ordinary punishment is no longer sufficient to punish you. Peel off Liu Pingying's skin and fill it with excrement. Hang him in front of the ancestral hall of the Liu family as a warning to others. The order was to capture the 9 generations of the Liu family. All the men were to be enslaved and await punishment. All the women were to be sent to the brothel as prostitutes. All the property of the Lu family will be confiscated. PFFF. Hearing Wang Zhong's imperial edict, Lu Pingying was so angry that she fell to the ground. All men were slaves, and all women were prostitutes. This was digging up the roots of the Lu family. Especially himself, he was going to be skinned and stuffed with feces. For a moment he regretted it. I shouldn't have tried to assassinate His Majesty. I shouldn't have done that. I'm finished now. The entire Lu family was destroyed. Lu Pingying was taken away from here. But when Lu Pingying was taken away, he didn't want to live anymore. He would rather die than watch his family get bullied one by one. My people, I will now start to get rid of the corrupt officials. What do you say? Wang Zhong looked at the people below and shouted. Immediately, the commoners began to whisper to each other. A few of the braver ones shouted, "Okay. Long live the emperor. Down with the corrupt officials, down with the corrupt officials." For a moment, the audience burst into applause. Wang Zhong nodded his head in satisfaction. He believed that today's matter would spread out in a few days. While they were talking, the Lu family was already surrounded by the East Military Depot. Many of the Lu family members were taken away one by one before they could react. The remaining women fainted when they heard what was going to happen to them. As a noble family, they were going to be sent to a brothel. How tragic was that? Many women committed suicide on the spot, but most of them were afraid of death and didn't dare to do so. After it was over, Wang Zhong left and brought the imperial guards to the Lu family. Bring Mengdi to see me. Wang Zhong sat on the main seat of the Lu family and said. Soon Mengdi was brought over. This commoner, Mengdi, thanks your majesty for your kindness. Long live the emperor. Because Mengdi didn't have any military rank now, he naturally called himself a commoner. Mengdi, I heard from the Empress Dowager that you are good at training soldiers. I know a little. Mengdi replied. I now appoint you as the deputy commander of the city guards. You will be in charge of training soldiers. Mengdi, accept the decree. Mengdi's face was filled with joy. Appointing him as the deputy commander was equivalent to giving him a lot of power and trust. As for Wang Zhong, he was now in control of two armies. One was the Imperial Guards, which he personally commanded. The other was the city guards, but not all of them were his men. With Mengdi in the army, there was at least a balance. Next was to inspect the Lu family's assets. Just as Wang Zhong guessed, the Lu family not only had a lot of fixed assets, but they also had a lot of silver in their treasury. Just the silver alone was over 10 million. There were also 3 big chests of gold, dozens of paintings, and all kinds of rare treasures. What caught Wang Zhong's attention the most were the 2 brothels of the Lu family. These 2 brothels were called Floral Courtyard and Fragrant Garden. Their business was good, but after investigating, Wang Zhong was very angry. Most of the women in these 2 brothels were actually abducted. Lu Pingying had 2 sons. One of them was the local overlord, who loved to find beautiful women. None of them could escape his evil clutches. Not only that, but he would also think of ways to bring those with a bit of beauty to the brothels. The other son was famous for being cruel and merciless. If the women in the brothels were disobedient, they would be beaten and broken. If the women were infected, they would be beaten to death and buried in a mass grave. In short, it was very tragic. After taking over, Wang Zhong ordered that if the women wanted to leave voluntarily, they would be given some money to settle down. If they were willing to continue, their wages would be split 30 to 70. This meant that they would get 30%, and Wang Zhong would get 70%. After all, he still had to feed so many people, so Wang Zhong would get more. Even so, the conditions were much better than before. At the same time, Wang Zhong also gave the 2 brothels names. They were called Water Moon Heavenly Grotto No. 1 and No. 2, which referred to Floral Courtyard and Fragrant Garden respectively. The women who worked inside were naturally the women who had their properties confiscated. Wang Zhong gave them a choice. They could either be beheaded or be trained to work. There were women who were chaste, and some would rather die, but most of them chose to accept it. Because Wang Zhong didn't want them to go to extremes and use the best service to serve the customers, he proposed that they could leave as long as they worked for 10 years. Compared to death, 10 years was 10 years. Of course, this was a story for later. After confiscating Lu Pingying's property and getting so much money, Wang Zhong strengthened his efforts to punish corrupt officials. After returning to the palace, there was another piece of good news. The first batch of cotton-padded clothes in the clothing factory was about 30 pieces. This number was too little for a proper clothing factory. But there was no mechanical equipment here. It was purely handmade. To be able to make so many clothes at once was already a performance of high efficiency. Listening to the Empress' report, Wang Zhong was very satisfied. The Empress did well. Tell me, how should I reward you? This is what this concubine should do. I don't ask for a reward. That won't do. I'll reward you with a chest of gold and silver jewelry. These gold and silver jewelry were obtained from the confiscation. Wang Zhong just wanted to show his appreciation. Thank you, Your Majesty. Since the emperor gave her something, Zhao Wan naturally couldn't refuse. Otherwise, it would be disrespectful. After thanking him, Zhao Wan said, Your Majesty, Feng Chengqing has been wholeheartedly assisting this concubine recently. Wang Zhong understood. You want me to reinstate her position as a concubine? This concubine doesn't dare to make a decision for Your Majesty. It's just that she can make those concubines listen to her. This concubine wants the capable one to be the concubine. And alright, have concubine Chen come over. Soon Feng Chengqing and her maidservant hurried over. Her face was flushed. It was obvious that she walked quickly when she heard that Wang Zhong wanted to see her. Commoner Feng Chengqing greets Your Majesty. Feng Chengqing respectfully said. Feng Chengqing, the Empress said that you are diligent in managing the household. You are dedicated to your work. You have done well in managing the household. Because of this, the Empress suggested that you be reinstated as a concubine. Concubine Chen, do you agree? How could Feng Chengqing not agree when she was finally reinstated as a concubine? She immediately knelt down in joy. This concubine thanks the emperor. Thank you, Empress, for your praise. However, don't be happy too early. If I find out that you're still the same as before, playing politics and getting jealous, I can guarantee that you'll be banished to the cold palace, said Wang Zhong in a cold voice. This concubine doesn't dare. This concubine will listen to Your Majesty and Empress. I will wholeheartedly share Your Majesty's worries. And you can leave. The news of concubine Chen being reinstated as a concubine spread throughout the harem. This surprised many people. However, some smart people could see that concubine Chen, who didn't listen to the emperor before, was very obedient now. She didn't even go to the Empress Dowager's place. Everyone could see that the Empress was the head of the harem. Next was concubine Chen. With the support of these two people, the emperor had complete control of the harem. The Empress Dowager was no different from being banished to the cold palace. In the past few days, several high-ranking officials had been dealt with. The officialdom was shaken. Most importantly, the officials who were dealt with ended up in a miserable state. Not only were they beheaded, but their entire families were also confiscated. All 3 generations were sent to prison. The men were reduced to slaves and the women were all prostitutes. It was said that the emperor had confiscated the Lu Pingying's brothel and renamed it Aquamoon Paradise. All the women were sent to Aquamoon Paradise to entertain the guests. Most importantly, there was no money to be earned. All the money they earned was sent to the national treasury. Every official was in danger. They were afraid that they would become the next one the next day. Nightfall. The Lu family's secret chamber. Dozens of officials were gathered in the small secret chamber of the Lu family. There was a minister of the Grand Council, who had 3,000 soldiers. There was also a minister of the Ministry of Personnel, who was in charge of personnel, and had countless connections with the Ministry of Military Affairs. In short, the officials who could be here all had some private soldiers in their hands. Everyone, you must have seen what happened to Lu Pingying's family. The men were slaves and the women were prostitutes. Lu Pingying's situation was even worse. Even though she bit her tongue to commit suicide in prison, her body was still plucked out, skinned, stuffed with feces, and hung in the Lu family's ancestral hall. If this happened to everyone, what would happen? Everyone's expression was ugly. Recently, Wang Zhong's series of actions had made it difficult for them to breathe. Prime Minister Liu, what do you think? That you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.